with me is the procedural officer, Ms. Aida Adams. I would now like to give the members of the committee the opportunity just to introduce themselves for the record. Thank you.
Good morning, it's Dave Bryant, member of the committee.
Good morning, Noko Masipa, member of the committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Khalil Brankais, member of the committee. Thank you.
Morning, Chair. My name is Norman Kontlo.
Morning, Chair, colleagues, Basil Petrus.
Mornings, Norma French and Bombo.
Good morning, all colleagues.
Good morning, Chairperson. Gillian Postman.
Good morning, Chief Whip. I think just for purposes of proper procedure, I'm requesting that everybody remain muted and only to turn on your microphones when you have been given an opportunity to speak. So I think that's important just for the procedure of the meeting. I'm now in welcoming the members. I'm also welcoming Minister Bartman, and I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, as well as then the heads of department, both from Provincial Treasury and from local government, and any of the senior officials. When we've completed those introductions, then I think we can move straight into the presentation that Provincial Treasury will then providing the committee on the financial recovery plans for Beaufort West, for Kannaland, and for Theewaterskloof. That presentation will then take place, and following the conclusion of the presentation, members of the committee will then be given an opportunity to raise any questions or comments that they may have. Thank you. Welcome to you, Minister.
Good morning, Chairperson, Deirdre Bartman, Minister of Finance. I'm just going to ask the Treasury team to first introduce themselves, and then maybe, Chair, if the municipalities could also each just introduce themselves who are in attendance. I know I saw Deputy Mayor from Beaufort as well as Mayor from Theewaterskloof online. I'm not sure if there's other officials from there, but I'm just going to hand over to the Treasury quickly just to make the introductions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister. My name is Victor Senna, the DDG responsible for fiscal and economic services in Treasury. Thank you.
Good morning, members. This is Stephen Kenyon, MFMA coordinator within the Provincial Treasury.
Good morning, members. My name is Kim K. Nyetlang from Provincial Treasury, Local Government.
Goeiemorgen. Good morning, Molweni. My name is Isaac C. Provincial Treasury. Thanks.
Good morning, members. Melissa van Niekerk, Provincial Treasury Financial Governance.
Good morning, members. Faisali, Local Government Accounting Services.
I just want to check if everyone from Treasury is done just before I hand back to the Chair. Okay, Chair, I think that's all from Treasury.
Minister, just to note that the Department of Local Government is also here, well represented.
Oh, apologies. Sorry, Chair, if we can also do them because they work with us on the FRPs as well.
Certainly, yes. I think local government, it would be great if you could introduce yourselves. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members. Sandra Greiling, Department of Local Government, Chief Director, Municipal Performance Monitoring and Support.
Good morning, Chairperson, Dr. Sharon Johnston, responsible for the Portfolio Support and Capacity Building, Department of Local Government. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Welcome to the meeting, and I think I'll now just give the opportunity for the municipalities, if the municipal managers are there, and mayors and any councillors, and any of the senior officials there, just to introduce themselves for the record. We'll start with Beaufort West, and then when Beaufort West is done, we'll move to Kannaland and to Theewaterskloof.
Good morning, Georgina Daimpies, Executive Mayor of Beaufort West. I'm on the platform.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is October Harper, the Deputy Mayor of Beaufort West Municipality. All greetings to the Minister and his panel.
Thank you very much and welcome. I think have we covered Beaufort West then? Then we can move on to...
Chairperson.
Yes, good day to you.
Good morning. My name is Marius Andrus and I'm a councillor at Beaufort West Municipality. Thank you, Chairperson.
Good day to you and welcome. I'm now going to move over to Kannaland, give Kannaland an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Ek is Jeffrey Donson, burgemeester van Kannaland Municipality.
Goeiedag.
Good morning, Chairperson, to the members of the committee, to the Minister, as well as the colleagues on the platform. My name is Los Reo. I'm the Municipal Manager.
Good day to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Reinhold Dido. I'm the Director of Infrastructure Services. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Hendrik Barnard. I am Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you. Good day to you. I assume we're done there. We've done Kannaland, then we move to Theewaterskloof. Any representatives from Theewaterskloof?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. My name is Weldon Wells. I'm the Speaker of Theewaterskloof Municipality, Municipal Council. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Chair. My name is Lincoln De Bruin, and I'm the Executive Mayor of TWK.
Good morning, Chairperson. It's Chris Kluter, Chairperson of Finance. Thank you.
Morning all. Ashwell Rados, Acting CFO, TDK.
Good morning to everyone. I think that then deals with Theewaterskloof. I also see Mr. September from Salga. Will you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. I am Nkosinathi September, Senior Advisor Municipal Finance at Salga. Chair, for your attention, I might indicate that I'm joined by two of my colleagues. With your permission, if they can introduce themselves.
Yes, certainly. They're most welcome to do that.
A very good morning to you. My name is Trevor Lombard, and I'm a Salga staff member. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Armstrong Bella, Salga official. Thank you.
Good day to you and welcome. And I'm very glad that you are joining these proceedings. I'm going to hand back to you now and to the team for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Chair, I'm not going to go into the detail right now because the team from Treasury will be doing the presentation and going into the detail. But just to indicate to people where we are currently, this presentation that we are doing is based on the Section 147 reports that we have to do quarterly on the financial recovery plans in terms of the MFMA. This particular period is for the quarter October to December on the financial recovery plan. So I'll also encourage the team that where there has been improvements since or deterioration since, that they also indicate such. But this particular reporting period is October to December 2025 for Beaufort West, Kannaland and Theewaterskloof municipalities as required in law. The FRPs are mandatory provincial interventions when municipalities face the financial crisis, and the goals are to restore financial stability, improve governance, and ensure service delivery. Beaufort West, you will see, is still in a stabilization phase, or phase 2, as we call it. And the particular reports are the first reports for the Theewaterskloof and the Kannaland municipalities within the FRP process. And Chair, I know that you would know that last year when we entered into the 2 additional FRPs in the original documentation with National Treasury, we indicated that this FRP process, if everything is followed and on time, it would take the 2 new FRPs an estimated 5 years to reach back to their point where they need to be. So we really are in the initial phases, in the rescue phases in this regard. I'm going to hand over to the team just to take us through the key matters of the report. The reports in terms of law are also tabled in the Provincial Parliament. It gets submitted to SALGA. Welcome to our SALGA colleagues as well. It gets submitted to National Treasury as well. National Treasury is also a key stakeholder with us. I don't think anyone from National Treasury is online today, but we do have a good working relationship with National Treasury, and we continue working with them and thank them for their support also as a stakeholder on the FRP process. I'm just going to hand over to Victor and Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity to come and brief members in terms of the progress that has been made in terms of the 3 FRPs that we have. And as Minister has already said, the presentation, Chair, is based on the progress report that was submitted on the 30th of April, which is also available on our website. Can I request my team to project the presentation, Stephen? Thank you.
Yes, certainly you can. I think if you can go ahead there.
Okay.
There I'm seeing it now. I think probably the next step is just to get it to that level of being able to see a lot more visibly, which it now is. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I think as Minister has already said, we currently have 3 municipalities that are currently under the mandatory intervention in terms of Section 139(5) of the Constitution. And I think as the Provincial Treasury, together with our partners, Local Department of Local Government, COGTA, SALGA, and National Treasury, I think there is that commitment in terms of restoring the financial health, functionality, as well as service delivery capacity of these municipalities. Chair, how our presentation is structured, we are going to cover the overview of the presentation, and then Stephen will then come in terms of providing the background to the Section 139(5) of interventions, how the interventions are implemented and reported on. And then from there, the directors that are responsible for these municipalities will then come in terms of providing detailed progress. For Beaufort West, Isaac will be providing the update, as well as for Kannaland, and then Kim will then provide progress for TWK. We'll then also touch on the support that has been provided to date, and then we'll then conclude, which will then be followed by the engagement. I think if we can move to the next slide. In terms of the overview, Chair, we currently have 3 municipalities under FRP, as I indicated. Beaufort West, the decision to intervene was granted in 2021, and the FRP started in 2022, in March 2022. Currently, the municipality is still in phase 2 of the FRP, which is the stabilization phase. And based on the December report that has been submitted, Chair, I think some of the progress that we are noting is that the municipality has been in FRP since 2021. I think so far they've made a notable progress. However, we have not achieved the improvement in terms of revenue or liquidity that would give us that assurance in terms of long-term financial sustainability. And I think the issue that is also impacting in terms of progress is in terms of the appointment of the municipal manager to ensure that the leadership that is required for the FRP is provided. So we'll continue, Chair, to monitor progress in terms of Beaufort West, because I think our goal is to make sure that the municipality exit the FRP process. Kanaland, Chair, the decision was granted in December 2023 by Provincial EXCO, and then the FRP started with the implementation in September 2025. Which is last year. The municipality, in terms of the implementation phase, is still in phase 1, which is the rescue phase. We've had teething challenges with the municipality in terms of initiate or starting most of the activities due to the challenges that colleagues will expand on. Most of the FRP activities are still outstanding. I think colleagues will go into detail in terms of what are the challenges. The financial issues that caused the financial crisis still remain, so there's still a lot of work that we still have to do in terms of turning around the financial or addressing the financial challenges for the municipality. And lastly, I think the progress that has been reported is that the municipality is also not yet ready to be evaluated for a possible move to the next phase of the FRP. So we still have a lot of work in terms of assisting the municipality for the municipality to be able to move to the next phase. And then the last municipality is TWK. The decision to intervene was granted in November 2024 by the Provincial EXCO, and the implementation of the FRP started in October 2025. Currently, the municipality is also in phase 1, which is the rescue phase. Some of the progress that we've noted to date is that even though there was initial good progress, the rescue phase has not been concluded, with many of the activities still in progress. The municipality has to also ensure that the payment agreement that was made with Eskom is finalized, and that a considerable effort is also made in terms of moving towards the funded budget, Chair. So I think then I will then hand over to Stephen in terms of the background. Stephen will then hand over to the directors in terms of detailed progress. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, DDG. Chair, members, I'm going to take you through the background. We start from the constitutional provisions. As I think you're well aware, the Constitution establishes the 3 spheres of government as autonomous decision makers, but provides that when there is a crisis in one of the spheres, another sphere is tasked to intervene. And these 3 interventions that we're discussing today are all in terms of Section 139(5) of the Constitution, which specifies that if a municipality, as a result of a crisis in its financial affairs, is in material breach of its obligations to provide basic services or meet financial commitments, then the provincial executive must intervene. And we've underlined the word must there. There is really no discretion once there is a financial crisis and a breach of commitments. It's a duty on the provincial executive to intervene, and the Constitution requires that the provincial executive impose a recovery plan, and that plan must be prepared in accordance with national legislation. And that national legislation in this case is the MFMA, and the MFMA in turn requires that that plan be prepared by National Treasury's Municipal Financial Recovery Service. I'll talk more to that in a moment. And the Constitution further stipulates that that plan then binds the municipality, and we'll talk more to those provisions in the MFMA as well. I'm going to then move to the next slide, which covers the some of the MFMA provisions. So the whole of Chapter 13 of the MFMA deals with this. So this is just one extract, and it just speaks a little bit to the provisions about the implementation of a financial recovery plan. And Section 146 requires that where there is a financial recovery plan in place, the municipality must implement the financial recovery plan, and that all revenue, expenditure, and budget decisions must be taken within the framework of that FRP. Progress must be reported monthly to the Provincial Treasury, and then the FRP binds the municipality. And the approval of the budget and legislative measures giving effect to the budget are all bound by that financial recovery plan. So the plan is not, I think the message from the MFMA is very clear that the financial recovery plan and its implementation is not optional, it's required. All the normal decision making of the council must be in line with the prescribed plan that's being imposed on the municipality. As I mentioned earlier, the Municipal Financial Recovery Service at National Treasury is the one responsible for actually drawing up the financial recovery plan. So this slide just tries to explain the different roles of the three spheres of government during the process. So as DDG Senna mentioned, it's the provincial executive that makes the decision to intervene. And I just want to be very clear here that the MFMA sets out the criteria for considering when a mandatory intervention is required. So there are objective financial indicators that indicate that a municipality is in financial crisis. And once those indicators have been triggered, the Provincial Treasury then prepares a memo together with the Department of Local Government, prepare a memo to the Provincial Executive, to the Provincial Cabinet, that sets out those, the facts of the case, and the Provincial Executive then formally makes that decision to intervene. Once that is triggered, we then, in line with the requirements of the MFMA, write, and the process set out there, write to a series of stakeholders, and one of those is a request to the National Treasury to prepare a financial recovery plan. There's then a formal consultation process on that is run by the National Treasury. They then finalize that recovery plan, and in all three of these municipalities have successfully gone through that process. That is then the end of the National Treasury's sort of day-to-day role. It then becomes the responsibility again of the provincial government to oversee the implementation of the financial recovery plan. But I want to emphasize that bar at the bottom of the slide, that the municipality retains its executive and legislative responsibilities throughout this process. Okay. In terms of what the financial recovery plan looks like, the FRP has 3 phases, and this is the first phase is the rescue phase, then there's a stabilization phase, and then a sustainability phase. The rescue phase is intended to be relatively short, so anything up to 6 to 9 months. Urgent matters to address the short-term cash and liquidity position of the municipality. It might include some high impact or visibility service delivery issues, but it's really not, it's really about getting the basics back in line so that the municipality is not bleeding cash and is able to then sort of have the basic finances in place so that the more underlying issues can be addressed, which then happens in phase 2, which is the stabilization phase, which then addresses the underlying causes of the original financial crisis, and that will last in the view of the Municipal Financial Recovery Service, if everything is done according to the plan, this should be roughly the 2-year mark that a municipality should finish the stabilization phase, and then after that, you're then implementing activities in phase 3 of the plan, which are then designed to ensure that the gains that have been made are embedded in the municipality and that a financial crisis won't reoccur. Further on the structure, within each of those 3 phases, the activities that the municipality must perform are grouped into these 4 pillars. So there's a governance pillar, which deals with the governance model, including council matters. It deals with contract matters, bylaws, the system of delegations, UIFW and consequence management, the audit action plan. So all of the key governance activities that need to be in place for a sound functioning municipality are dealt with in that pillar. Then the second pillar is the institutional pillar, which deals with the operating model. And in summary, it's all of the human resources, organizational design, COE, cost of employment, leave policies, all of those kinds of matters are dealt with in that pillar. And then the third pillar is financial management. So here we deal with the budget matters, the revenue management, expenditure management, and supply chain. So those are maybe the things you typically expect to see in a financial recovery plan. But I think we always say in these FRPs that, you know, a financial crisis is what we pick up in the financial data, but that the problems often originate in challenges in the governance model, in the institutional structure, etc., which is why we have to have all of these pillars in a sort of integrated model. And then the fourth pillar is service delivery, where we're talking about the impact of the finances in delivering services to the community, and we're looking at, particularly in the early stages of an FRP, we'll mainly be looking at things like water losses, metering, revenue collection, etc., the basics that link to the revenue side. But as we move further into the FRP, it'll get into more substantive improvements in service delivery. We always try to emphasize that all of our financial recovery plans are intended to be enabling. So they're not meant to be punitive. They're meant to enable the municipality to achieve the financial recovery. And implementation is the responsibility of the municipality, but supported by the province. And this enabling framework is intended to enable the municipality to deliver on its mandate and its vision for the betterment of the community. In terms of the practicalities of the implementation, the FRP, you've heard me refer a couple of times to the activities, and on the right-hand side there you see just an extract to show you what the implementation matrix looks like, and these are all published on the Provincial Treasury's website. But there are for each of those phases of the FRP, there are over 200 activities per municipality that have to be implemented. And so those are grouped in the different pillars, and we hold a meeting for each of the pillars in a slightly different structure, and it differs a little bit in each municipality, but we'll hold meetings to monitor progress and assist where we can from the provincial side, and it's usually the Department of Local Government captains the governance, institutional and service delivery pillars, and the Provincial Treasury the finance pillar. And so we're sort of assisting the municipality with that. In addition, very importantly, every week there is also a cash flow committee, and particularly in the early stages, the first 2 phases of the FRP, where we're trying to manage the initial stop the bleeding, so to speak. It's very important that all decisions on payments run through that cash flow committee, and I'm sure members can appreciate that by the time you get an invoice from a provider, it's too late to make a decision on cost savings, etc., in the cash flow committee. So that committee also has to decide what can be put out for procurement, whether any new hiring can be done, etc. So all the major expenditure decisions need to be processed through that. That committee essentially checks whether whether things are being prioritized correctly. So it centralizes that in the municipality. That committee is chaired by the municipal manager. So it's a management decision of the municipality, but provincial treasury representatives are on that committee to provide advice and to ensure that all of those decisions are aligned to the financial recovery plan. Okay, so you've got at the bottom there in the reporting system, you've got meetings on all 4 pillars and the cash flow committee. Those then go into a monthly FRP report, which looks a lot like what's on the right-hand side of the table there. So it's quite a detailed report on progress on each of the activities. And that is reported to a technical implementation committee that meets monthly. Because there are 200 indicators to deal with, we usually have 2 meetings per month so that we can process everything. Sometimes it's consolidated into 1 meeting, but that technical implementation committee, which I chair with the municipal manager and the representatives of the municipality, that deals with overall progress on the FRP every month. Okay, so that's on a monthly basis, the rhythm. Then in terms of the FRP reporting process flow, each of those monthly reports then feeds into a quarterly, so 3 monthly reports become a quarterly report. And the quarterly report is then compiled by the province. So Provincial Treasury and Department of Local Government work together on that. And those are the reports that have been attached to this meeting, and that, as DDG Sena highlighted, are published on the website. So we compile those quarterly reports. Those quarterly reports then go to an oversight committee, which is chaired by the DDG in the Treasury, and also includes representatives from SALGA, DLG, National Treasuries, Municipal Financial Recovery Service, and the municipal manager and CFO of the relevant municipality. So that's the committee, and I think it's very important to say that's the committee that decides whether a municipality is ready to move to another phase of the FRP. It also, if they have particular concerns, they can recommend remedial actions if an FRP is not being implemented adequately. Though that committee certifies those reports, the reports then go to Provincial Cabinet, and once Provincial Cabinet has noted them, they're then formally sent to those stakeholders listed at the bottom of the slide there, which are set out in the MFMA, in section 147 of the MFMA. And we have also decided to publish those reports on the Provincial Treasury's website as well. So that's been done with this set of reports for the first time. So that's an innovation from our side to improve public transparency and accountability on FRP implementation. As you'd note, the provincial legislature is one of those institutions that the section 147 of the MFMA requires the reports to be submitted to. So that really enables your oversight role, which includes oversight of the provincial executive's progress in implementing the intervention, as well as oversight of how the municipality is implementing the FRP. And I think in that context, it's just important to bear in mind that the very first clause of Chapter 13 of the MFMA, Section 135, says that the primary responsibility to avoid, identify, and resolve financial problems in a municipality rests with the municipality itself. Okay, then the next section is going to be the municipal specific updates. So we're going to do an update, just 3 slides to summarize the quarterly reports, 3 slides per municipality. And I'm going to present the first one on Beaufort West, and then my colleagues Isaac and Kim are going to present the next 2, just so that you have at least, because the slides look fairly similar, at least you'll have 3 different voices presenting on the 3 different municipalities. So Beaufort West, as we noted at the outset, has been under intervention for the longest of these 3 municipalities. So it's the only one that's already in the second phase of implementing the FRP. It moved to phase 2 at the end of 2023. So there was obviously strong implementation. They completed phase 1 by then. And as you can see from the activity tracker, that dashboard 1 on the right-hand side, even on phase 2, I mean, they've been in phase 2 for a substantial period of time already, and most of the activities here are either on track towards completion or have already been completed. There's nothing left in the not started or only in early progress stages here. So the municipality has made quite good progress on the activity tracker. However, we note that they've still not yet resolved all aspects of their financial crisis, and in particular, they don't have the liquidity reserves required to be confident that they can weather any unexpected events. So we're also noting that the municipality, although it's made strong progress, the pace of that progress has really stalled, which is why they're not yet in phase 3 of the FRP. We note here that the municipality is expected to qualify for the second write-off of the third of its debt owed to Eskom. So this refers to the municipal debt relief program. And I just want to point out here that what we're reporting on at this stage is the reports that have been published. So these are the reports to the end of December 2025. So that's almost 5 months ago. So there have been some substantial developments since then, obviously. And one of those is that Beaufort West has received its formal letter from National Treasury confirming that it did in fact qualify for this second write-off of a third of its debt owed to Eskom. So congratulations to the municipality on that. The municipality has institutionalized the FRP very well, and both the council and administration have had strong cooperation in the FRP. I think one of the major constraints here, however, remains the lack of an appointed municipal manager. So the municipality hasn't had an appointed municipal manager for a full year now, and we've really seen the impact of that in a slowing in the pace of FRP implementation. The next slide gives a summary of the financial position of Beaufort West, and we note that from the beginning of the FRP, there's been a strong improvement in the collection rate. So when we intervened in Beaufort West, the collection rate was in the low 60%, 62% at one point, which is not sustainable as a business model. You'll see towards the bottom of the table on the right-hand side where the arrows go sort of left and right, that collection rate has steadily improved from the beginning of the implementation. It already got to 79, then to 84, and then to 90%, but it's kind of stalled at that 90% level. And the requirement in the Eskom debt relief program is actually a collection rate of 95%. So there's been stalled progress on that. All grant funding is ring-fenced and cash-backed, but once you exclude that grant funding that's been ring-fenced from the municipality's cash reserves, they have very, very thin cash reserves, which means that they're always at risk of not being able to make payments timeously, which is largely why we say that they remain in financial crisis. I think we've already addressed the Eskom debt relief, etc. The municipality, I want to end this slide by noting, though, a significant milestone that was achieved the end of last year, which was the improved audit outcome of the municipality, and the municipality shifted from qualified with findings to unqualified with findings. So a significant achievement for the municipality there. And then the last slide, we reflect on the other pillars, the institutional governance and service delivery pillars. On governance and institutional, there's been a review of the organizational structure that's been completed. Again, noting the challenge with the municipal manager post and filling that, it has been advertised, and the recruitment and selection process commenced. This is as at December. The disciplinary matters, the district is assisting There's also been assistance with the standard operating procedures, partnerships with the CETAs, etc. On the service delivery side, there's been particular challenges around vandalism, but some positive engagements with the police service around addressing those. Water augmentation projects have been completed, although in the light of the recent rains, I suppose the situation is somewhat different now, but this is as at December. The key upgrades to the water treatment works are being implemented, and I think the municipalities received substantial grant allocations from the Department of Water and Sanitation for water and wastewater treatment works in the 25-26 financial year, and that really reflects the good performance on the capital budget previously, as well as assistance on the master planning in the municipality. However, we were very concerned to see at the middle of the year drastic underspending, as we note at the bottom of the slide. At the middle of the year, underspending was at capital spending was only at 15%, when it should have been above half. And the municipality was at severe risk of losing grant funding, etc. on that. Subsequent to that, there has been a recovery plan on the capex that we've seen, but I think the part of the story around that slow capital spending was the impact of not having an appointed municipal manager in place. And so we kind of seeing that. I think that's a very tangible illustration of the impact of that. Okay, I'm going to move over to Kannaland and ask my colleague Isaac Tsi to present on this municipality.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning once again, honorable members and my fellow colleagues. Chair, I'll be taking you through Kannaland local municipality. A municipality full of potential, but not yet realized. That's where I start, Chair. But we would realize the potential at the end of the day. But for now, it's still, be tough for us to get off the ground. But once we start moving, I think we would be one of the best municipalities in the Western Cape. That's the confidence I'm giving to my colleagues because of the work that we are currently doing in Kannaland. Although it's not yet on the surface, Chair, but there's a lot of work that is being done, behind the scenes. Starting off with our first slide, when one looks at, the current activities, in Kannaland from the 4 pillars, you would see that. Ooh, sorry. Okay, then I can proceed. Okay, Chair, you will see from the 4 pillars that, Kannaland is currently below, 30% with regards to all the activities combined. And if one looks at that, I think it's also acceptable that, when you institutionalize, something that is so, drastic as financial recovery plan, it obviously takes time to lay out the systems and all of that. But currently we're sitting at 30%, but we believe that, in the next phase, we would start seeing improvements. But I think the first reporting and the second reporting cycle will not see much progress because of the current challenges of setting up the systems in place. But what we would notice is that colleagues are not used to monthly reporting and all of that, so the reports are delayed, and which obviously disrupts the systems. Each and every delay disrupts the system, given the fact that Kannaland is it's a small municipality. Margin of error is also somehow limited. So one mistake that they make, throws everything off the system. So those are the challenges that we're currently having. Now we'll also see, Chair, Kannaland is also struggling to collect its own revenue, and it's unable to pay Eskom bulk account. And then one of the conditions of, unfortunately, of the Eskom debt relief is that, you should be able to pay your current account so that you can get the write-off. Unfortunately for Kannaland, that has not happened, and they missed out on the second write-off of the Eskom debt relief, which I think has also set them back, a bit, because, that would have been beneficial in terms of them writing off, the huge ESCOM that they currently have. And obviously, it's also throwing everything off. Your budget will remain unfunded and all of that because of all these challenges that we're currently having, And I think some of the key issues that we've seen, but like I said, Chair, we are building systems, Currently, we're building a culture, and it's not easy to build a culture in an institution that never had a culture before. So now you then see that, the non-implementation of decisions that we make in the FRP, committees, various committees. I think we have about 4 committees, but in particular, I'll talk to the cash flow committee, decisions that we make where, we would resolve on things and then colleagues will not implement. And then the next thing you hear is that, there's been a resolution that has been taken that certain things be reversed and all of that, which I think is also something that requires us to be patient and, try to, inculcate the culture of accountability in the system. Because like I said, when you build a system, it's not as easy as one would think. So now we need to inculcate such issues in terms of ensuring that, the municipality understands why we are taking such a posture in terms of making sure that we want to see them, provide, services and meeting the objectives of, Section 152 of the Constitution, which is to make sure that provision of basic services is made available to its communities. So we also acknowledge that, and the municipality has also acknowledged that we also have a serious challenge of skills in terms of, capacity to execute, some of the activities that we want to see happening in Canaran. And that, I think, has also now set us back. But like I say, it's a system that we are building, Chair, so we would have these challenges. But now what we've done as provincial treasury, we've not folded our arms, or as provincial government, we've not folded our arms. We are currently busy, helping the municipality, to make sure that these challenges are addressed. When our colleagues have to report on activities on a monthly basis, they all go on sick leave and, reports are missing and all of that. But that's a culture we'll deal with as we go on. As we go to the next slide. Chair, now I'll talk to, I gave you an overview. Can you go to the next slide, please, colleagues? Okay. Maybe I'm not audible. So if I'm not audible, Chair, you need to stop me and, alert me that I'm not audible enough. Chair, now when we look at the...
You're audible, so go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Because it's like I'm talking alone. But nonetheless, Chair, when we look at, the financial impact of, the municipality, I think everything, although you see the greens are not necessarily saying there's an improvement. There's no basic, improvement that can be worthy to mention, even if one looks at, all the, the parameters on your right-hand side, you would see that, there's basically no progress if one looks at, the potential that the municipality has, if it can do the right things, and, in looking at the situation where we find ourselves in, Chair. Yeah, Chair, well, we know they always say numbers do not lie, and I think it's true if one looks at the, the challenges that the municipality has in terms of collection rate. They're not meeting the target in terms of, your current ratio, they're below the norm, in everything that the municipality is currently having. Everything is below the norm. They are not able to pay creditors within 30 days. I think we can go on and on. But what I want to highlight, Chair, is, 2 critical components in this slide, which the first one being, employee-related cost. And I think it also goes to your overtime payments and all of that, and notches and, salaries being paid and, overpayment of salaries and all of that. But what we've done, Chair, is that we've recognized that the municipality is currently overspending on the employee-related costs, despite some of the resolutions that we've taken as the cash flow committee, where we've indicated that, the current organogram that the municipality is operating on is unaffordable to the municipality. That is why we have this huge deficit which is making it near impossible for them to pay ESCOM, to pay creditors, and to basically have a fully functional, municipality in the system. So now what we then said is that through the cash flow committee, we've said, one, no officials in the political office will get overtime. Two, we said we need to review the current provisions that they have for overtime and standby, because what we've realized is that we do not get value for money in terms of all those things. Because now, at the end of the day, Chair, an overtime is not an entitlement, right? And overtime is a compensation for work done over and above what you're supposed to then do. But in this case, what we are seeing in Kanaland is unfortunate that the overtime is being used as a top-up to the salary that an individual is supposed to get, which is very worrisome. But it's something that we are dealing with. We are very patient. We'll get it right, and I'm pretty much sure that when we begin the new financial year, some of the teething issues that we are currently battling with would have resolved. I think we are going to reach a consensus when it comes to that. Chair, the second issue that I want to highlight, which obviously talks to the data credibility, is that the municipality is still transacting outside the financial system, which is obviously going against the spirit of what National Treasury wants us to do, which is to make sure that, everything is done on the financial system so that there's what we call financial transparency and accountability. But it's something that we are currently not seeing because the municipality would obviously make an excuse that, we are still using an old system, which is the classic system, and now we have a web-based system. Obviously, it creates a bit of a challenge, in terms of that. But Chair, it is important for the municipality to comply with the rules because the rules are there to regulate and ensure there's accountability and transparency in the system. So we are currently busy dealing with that with the municipality. And also what I want to highlight is that we've also not folded our arms as provincial government. We've managed to source 2 service providers. The other one helped the municipality deal with the budget. And the other one is busy doing the payroll audit. But what we found as preliminary findings is that there are possibilities of fraudulent activities in the system, but it's something that has not yet been fully confirmed. So it's still work under progress. And what we've done as well is we've also provided additional support in terms of an NMFIP advisor who will be in the municipality for, in a month for 3 weeks, just to make sure that we start getting the reporting right. As I said in the beginning, we are working on getting the system right. We are very patient, and I know we'll get it right, Chair. But you look at, some of the, on the ratio side, basically, let me just quickly touch on your debtors as well. If you look at the debtors, when we started, with FRP, the municipality is sitting at 187 million of uncollected money that the municipality should have collected. And obviously, if they've collected that money, they would obviously have paid ESCOM. But now what we need to do is look at the systems. I mean, again, we talk to the efficiencies in the system. I think revenue collection, debt collection, and credit control is not strictly applied. And if you look at, some of the things that we are currently battling with in the cash flow committees to make sure that we increase the disconnection list, because currently the municipality is only in a month, drawing up a cutoff list of 1.7 million, which I don't think it's significant or it's sufficient to make sure that we address the backlog and we collect aggressively to ensure that we stabilize our finances. So I think those are some of the key issues that the municipality will need to work, extremely hard to make sure that we get right. As we go to the next slide, institutional pillar and the service delivery pillar. Chair, under institutional pillar, you'd see that, support is being given to councillors. And, I think that is done through Salga as well, and Melissa's team as well, in our space is also helping with that. We are also providing, support to councillors and senior management on disciplinary processes and, consequence management. Although, Chair, consequence management is still a document, but it's not yet a practice or a norm that is being practiced, frequently in municipalities. But I think it's something that we should start zooming into and make sure that, there's consequences for all, decisions that are administrative decisions that are not taken in the spirit of ensuring that good governance prevails. So I think it's something that we need to look at. On the issue of service delivery, Chair, here you would see that municipality, through, DLG intervention is working towards, making sure that there's collaboration amongst, municipalities. And then there's also now the district support that we espouse, where you see now Garden Route and Hessicon municipalities are working together to appoint a land use inspector. We've seen that, the National Treasury has also sponsored, a smart meter program, which obviously has also helped improve revenue by 4%. But I think we can get more out of that as we see, the implementation process and, finalization of all remaining meters being installed on the ground. So we'll start seeing a bit of activities. And I think as well as Provincial Treasury, we at some point gave municipality money, about 1.5 million as well, towards making sure that we get, a metering correct, because, you can't build what you can't measure. So that's some of the things that we, have assisted the municipality with. The municipality is also prioritizing repairing of, yellow fleet to make sure that, services are being delivered, roads are being cleared, and all of that. And traffic fines, Chair, as well, the municipality is targeting a 15% collection rate in the year 25-26, increasing it to 30% in the financial year 27-28. With that, Chair, I'll hand over to my colleague Kim K to take us through the next slide. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Isaac, and good morning, honorable members and colleagues. So I'll take you through to the Tiamat Disclose section. As our DDG indicated, the municipality remains in the rescue phase, and by the end of December, they have only been in the rescue phase for 3 months, and we are looking at, as Stephen Kenyon indicated, the rescue phase should be more or less 8 to 9 months. So what I can report is that there has been very good initial progress that has been made, because the municipality have started with some of the activities even prior to the institutionalization of the FRP or the adoption of the FRP. Maybe just to mention, one of that activities was the cash flow committee that has been institutionalized before the adoption of the FRP, and very good progress has been made from that. The success can really be attributed to the municipal administration and their leadership, as well as the support that was provided by council to institutionalize and implement this FRP. So what we also have is, on a monthly basis, the municipality report on the progress made. On time, we've had meetings every month. So I really just want to commend the municipality for institutionalizing the initial phase of the FRP. What happened in January was that the MM and the CFO were suspended, that those investigations are underway. I can, however, indicate that the implementation of the FRP is continuing, and we are maintaining that cash flow committee meetings on a weekly basis. And the success of this FRP is really, the continuation of the success is really dependent on the stabilization of senior staff to continue with it. And a major milestone that we've had, I think, towards the end of March was the conclusion of the payment arrangement, and that means that a significant portion of the interest can be written off. So it will result in an improved financial balance or position, rather. And because the outstanding debt to Eskom will be spread over to more than 1 year, it will also show an improved position in terms of the municipalities' funding position as well as their financial position overall. So if we can just zoom into the activities on your right. Apologies, Chair. We've seen on average after 3 months, the municipalities have implemented about 17% of the activities. Many of it is still in progress, but after 3 months, this is quite a good progress report from Theobartus Kloof. If we move on to the next slide, in terms of the financial position, overall, you see quite a strong progress on most of the financial indicators. If I can just highlight specifically, as at the end of December, the municipality had a closing balance, I think, of 34 million. If you compare that to the end of the financial year of 17 million, you can already see quite a significant increase there. However, the cash flow balance remains largely committed, especially if we still consider unspent grants and Eskom debt that is payable. But we've seen improvements specifically on your collection rates. At the moment, it's around 83%. It remains below the FRP target of 85%, but it is quite higher than what it was, like 77% at one stage in the previous financial year. A key indicator for us as well is the cash coverage ratio. It was negative by the end of the financial year. It is now at 0.84 months. The norm is 1 month at least. So they're just slightly below that. But as we can see, there is improvements monthly, or have been improvements monthly over the past few months. In terms of the unspent grants, that has been a concern in the status, especially in the previous financial year. Unspent grants that has not been cash backed. The municipality has ring-fenced the unspent grants, and that is being monitored on a weekly basis. 2 of the indicators remains in the red, and that is just the Eskom debt, which is outstanding. At the end of December, it was 102 million. When we look at the outstanding balance now, it's about 86 million. So we can already see quite a significant progress there as well. The municipality is paying 19.35 million. In respect of that payment arrangement, it is quite a large amount and quite a commitment from the municipality, and it does speak to their commitment to ensure that they move through this rescue phase towards stabilization. Theobartus Kloof is, I think, unfortunately not part of the debt relief process, which means that they will have to pay all the outstanding balances to Eskom by themselves. So that will take some time, but like I've mentioned, they are actively working towards settling that debt. And if we compare overall what the position was at the end of December, we compare that to the position maybe at the end of June, we can see great improvements from the municipality side to stabilize the cash position. But as we move towards the end of the financial year now, greater efforts and financial discipline is required. There's quite a large amount in commitments that is due now by the end of June, loan repayments that needs to be made. And although the cash is in a positive position now, they're no longer reliant on overdrafts. It remains constrained when we look at the commitments that they have because of the Eskom debt of 19.35 loan amounts that are due of 18 million. So what they are busy with now is to identify savings so that they are able to meet those commitments, but it remains very tight balancing act to maintain service delivery as well as cut on expenditures and meet your commitments to ensure that the municipality move forward. If we excuse me, if we move to the next slide, in terms of the institutional governance and service delivery, there has been training provided to councillors similar to the other municipalities on their roles and responsibility. Training and workshops has been held on ethical leadership and awareness training. There's also been training to councillors and senior management on disciplinary procedures and consequent management, and which is actively being monitored as well through the FRP. There's also legal advice or guidance that has been provided on the status of the executive mayor. From a service delivery perspective, I think this pillar has started off a bit slower, but the water conservation and water demand management plan was finalized and adopted by council, and it was also published. There's also the quarterly loss reports that was compiled, and that is being submitted to management. From DLG side, they provided 400 million towards strengthening the waste management, and Provincial Treasury has also provided 2.5 million towards smart water meters. Not enough for the municipality's need, but I think that is a good start towards improving the revenue. Chair, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Stephen again. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Kim. I'm just going to introduce the support section. So we, and then my colleagues from DLG are going to do most of the presentation here. But just to emphasize for members, to clarify, financial recovery plans are not a bailout. So it is a plan for how the municipality can use its own revenues, its own instruments to ensure a financial recovery of the municipality. So it's getting it back to how things should be. It's not a bailout of cash from another sphere of government. I think just in case there was any misunderstanding about that, it's important to clarify that. However, we do make sure that we're providing additional support. So most of the financial recovery plan is, as you'll have seen, is about activities that the municipality must implement, and then to a greater or lesser extent supporting the municipality to implement those. But there are all three of these municipalities benefit from a range of additional support, including perhaps the biggest financial impact is that debt relief that we've discussed for both Beaufort West and Kannaland, because Theewaterskloof debts to Eskom occurred only after the debt relief program had been announced and closed for applications. Theewaterskloof is unfortunately not eligible to be part of that program, as Kim explained. All three municipalities benefit from smart meter or support for meters, at least. So Beaufort West and Kannaland again benefit from the smart meter grant. Beaufort West has used that for water meters, and Kannaland for electricity meters. Tens of millions of rands in benefit from funded by National Treasury there. All three municipalities have benefited from, I must say, much more modest allocations from the Provincial Treasury for meter replacements, and those we use in part, so that those range between 1.5 and sort of 3 million rands in allocations from the Provincial Treasury, which we use largely to pilot the rollout of meters to prove the concept, and that helped both Beaufort West and Kannaland to qualify for larger allocations from the National Treasury, and we hope to follow a similar strategy for Theewaterskloof. All three municipalities have municipal finance improvement program advisors funded by the National Treasury that are deployed to support them, and all three again benefit from municipal infrastructure support agent advisors funded from MISA, which forms part of the National Department of Cooperative Governance. There's also small amounts of grant funding from both Provincial Treasury and the Department of Local Government. You saw examples of that on the previous slide from Kim. We're targeting specific projects like with boreholes or with data challenges in a municipality. And then we also, rather than transferring funds to municipalities, we sometimes deploy, the Provincial Treasury will fund consultants to do a particular project. A good example of this is the payroll audit that's currently underway in Kannaland. But there is also a broader Section 154 support package in each of these municipalities, and that's what my colleague, Dr. Shyam Johnson, is going to present on in the next few slides. Over to you, Shyam.
Thank you, Stephen, and good morning, Chairperson and honourable members and colleagues. So I would like to thank the PT colleagues for presenting an overall presentation of how the FRP has been progressing. As a starting point, Chairperson and honourable members, I'd like to contextualise the interplay between the Section 154 support provision in the Constitution and how it fits in with the Section 139.5 FRP requirements that has been presented by PT. So the first point of departure is that the Section 154 is framed in a way that compels provincial governments to support and also strengthen the capacity of municipalities. And when we're reading the implication of Section 154, we need to be mindful of the other provisions in the Constitution, like Section 151(4), which basically protects the executive authority of local government to perform the executive functions and the ability to perform their powers. So within this, there needs to be a balancing by, for example, our Department of Local Government as to how we implement the Section 154 in real terms when we need to support municipalities. But how do we do that? We do that within the scope of the Section 155(6)(a) that demands us to constantly monitor and check if the support rendered to local government is relevant and is appropriate. And the ultimate aim is set out in Section 155(6)(b), which is to promote development of local government capacity. Now, taking that into consideration, it's important then to understand that the Section 154 plan differs in how it is implemented, in the sense that it is not a top-down authoritative plan that is presented to the municipality, but rather it's a collaborative, consultative document, evolving document with iterative processes in its conceptualization and as well as its implementation. So if I can please go to the next slide, Stephen, thank you. So what then is the process that we do follow? And this is quite critical for DLG. We follow a process, firstly, that at a high-level strategic basis is informed by a broad strategy on monitoring and support for local government. And at this strategic level, we also have the operational detailed state of SOPs that informs us how do we go and engage when we discuss with the municipality, but as well, how do we collaborate with all the necessary role players within the ecosystem of rendering the necessary support for the municipalities to be empowered to deliver on their own mandates. So the first point that I would like to emphasize is that when we start the support process, it's intelligence driven by data. And in the case of the FRPs that we are considering today and that has been presented, the FRPs were the trigger for us to then do our diagnostic assessments. So when we looked at the diagnostic assessments, it is important to note that from the DLG perspective, we needed to get all the role players together, and that is identifying the necessary stakeholders, as my colleagues from Provincial Treasury already acknowledged the role players of SALGA, MISA, national departments as well as the other sector departments across the provincial government to come together and identify what are the immediate problems, what needs to be addressed. But beyond the FRP, when it comes to the Section 154 support plan chairperson and honourable members, we also have to look at the long-term impact that we need to realise, as already espoused by my colleague, Dr. Isaac Tsitsi, that spoke about the imperative of Section 152, and that is the objectives of local government, and that we need to bear in mind. So how do we go about this? When, as you're looking at the depiction in this process flow, we prepare a status report. And this status report, chairperson and honourable members, is informed by the data that has been collected through policy documents as well as other information intelligence that we have received via all the role players that are involved in the process. What we then do is prepare a status report. And this status report is essential because as our Department of Local Government, we need to ensure that we are executing a single window of coordination, that we are avoiding duplication of initiatives and projects within the municipal space. So it is at this juncture that we bring all the role players together, we get buy-in, we get our commitment, and we know what we're going to package in our support plan. But this plan, Honourable Chairperson and members, is a draft support plan because the support plan must be discussed and consulted with the municipality at all stages in the process. So what this actually means is that when we do the draft support plan, it needs to be tailor-made for the specific needs of that municipality. It's not just a generic support that we render. And also, it means that the projects that needs to be identified needs to speak to the clear needs, the urgent needs, and also the medium-term and long-term needs, okay? And then what we then do is we then present a package and we submit that to the municipal manager, who will then take that and submit that for council's consideration. And it is imperative at this point, the distinction between the National Treasury's development of the FRP is different to how the Section 154 support plan is conducted because it's collaborative and council adopts a plan that they own and that they feel comfortable with. So if I'm going to speak about the implementation steps, I think it would be best for me to go to the next slide, Steve, if you may, and then I can speak to it right there. So from the outset, it became very clear in all the presentations made by my colleagues in the Provincial Treasury, as well as Provincial Minister Bartman, that the autonomy of local government cannot be underestimated and cannot be undermined. So when we institutionalize a support package, it is critical for us to ensure that the head of the municipality, which is the municipal manager, that he identifies and agrees on the prioritized projects, and that he as well needs to lead and report back on the progress. But apart from that, as the DLG, we know that the governance structures is essential in formalizing this package. So while this is not a binding, so to say, top-down support plan, a plan that is imposed on a municipality, it is critical that we have a steering committee that provides overarching strategic direction that can also deal with bottlenecks, challenges. And so what does this actually mean for what we need to do as ensuring that this governance structure is appropriately enabled? We have members, for example, from the provincial sector departments, members from COGTA that are represented, members from SALGA, Stats SA, MESA, and the DWS. And these these committee members, they will meet necessarily on a quarterly basis, but this is also contingent on the functionality level of municipality. So for instance, it may be monthly meetings, as in our experience with the Beaufort West, and then it may move from monthly to bi-monthly, and then thereafter at a quarterly basis. So ultimately, when we're looking at the broader picture, we're looking at the rhythm of how the support plan is actually affected in practice. So now, coming to the steering committee, again, it needs to be confirmed that it's a municipal manager that is chairing the steering committee meetings, and that the sector departments input into those meetings. And then lastly, to confirm that the DLG, in its primary role, giving effect to Section 154 of the Constitution, that we are responsible for the coordination, we are responsible for facilitating, but moreover, we are responsible for mobilizing support in the respect of the projects identified, as well as the support plan and whether it is finding traction. At this point, I want to pause, Chairperson and honourable members, to state that it has become very clear that when there are institutional system weaknesses, as already articulated eloquently by the Provincial Treasury, this certainly then impacts the performance and the traction that the projects gains on the ground. So I'm going to be very brief in the next few slides, because a lot of the information and details that lies in the slides have been adequately presented by my Provincial Treasury colleagues. So when we look at Beaufort West, the critical thing that I would like to just draw out from the presentation that Mr. Stephen Kenyon made was that there was clear buy-in and drive from the municipality. And that was reflected in how the municipality moved from rescue phase into the stabilization phase. And it was clearly also stated that the stalling now in the stabilization phase is very much attributed to also the governance implications of not having a permanent municipal manager. So these are the dynamics that needs to be taken into consideration when we look at the performance and implementation of the Section 154 plan. But the DLG, like the Provincial Treasury, is proud of the achievements and the progress that has been made in the Beaufort West community, in Beaufort West municipality. And I think at this point, it's also critical to honor the achievements that the municipality did in not only taking the support plan as it is, completing the identified projects, but then also innovatively identifying new projects that they would then want to work towards with a support plan. Thank you, Steve. May I go to the next slide? So when it comes to Kannaland, the Kannaland municipality, and from our department side, is as experienced by our Provincial Treasury colleagues. This is also a situation where we need to go back to basics and to prioritize the essentials of what this municipality needs to do. The Section 154 support plan is being reviewed and it needs to be strengthened. But over and above the actual identification of projects, the commitment and the drive within the municipal administration is a matter that the department needs to work with, and we are collaborating. And in this regard, the department is placing emphasis in working with the municipality going forward. We are, although the presentation at this time is reflecting on the past, I can say comfortably that going forward, our Department of Local Government has established a meeting already to get the Section 154 support plan embedded and get traction on it. and we are consulting and making further engagements with the municipality to prioritize this going forward. Thank you, Steve. Can we please go to the next slide? So when it comes to the De Waterskloof municipality and the support plan rendered there, it is critical for us to acknowledge that there has been engagements with the municipality and that these engagements with respect to the Section 154 support plan has been initially on track. But like with the implementation of the FRP, there has been a slowing down of where we are going with the Section 154 support plan. And at this point, the Section 154 support plan has not been approved by Council as yet. So this is also something that we will prioritize and that we need to have a certain approach with the municipality to decide how we're going to go forward in identifying how this can then be progressively dealt with. Thank you, Steve. At this point, I would like to hand over to the conclusion to be rendered by Mr. Victor Senna. But what I do want to emphasize is that it is critical for us to be mindful that the Section 154 support plans, like the FRP plans, are not in a vacuum. There are systemic challenges within the municipal administration that impacts and directly influences how progress and achievements are made. Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, honourable members of the Standing Committee and colleagues.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for the presentations. So in conclusion, Chair, I think despite some of the challenges that colleagues have reported on, I think we are confident, Chair, that working together with our partners, we should be able to turn around the fortunes of the three municipalities. And I think what is also critical is that we appreciate the support, cooperation, and commitment that has been shown by the three municipalities to turn around the fortunes and also ensure that the FRPs are successful. So as the provincial government will closely monitor the financial sustainability of this municipality and also provide advice and support to prevent any further crisis. However, if a municipality is in crisis, we are committed to timelessly intervene using, of course, the appropriate legal framework. And also the provincial government chair will continue to oversee, guide, and provide support to assist the implementation of the FRPs until the municipalities are fully restored to financial health. And I think what is also key, Chair, for the FRPs to succeed, I think what is critical is that there needs to be, firstly, leadership stability in the municipality, as well as political buy-in or a buy-in at a political level. There needs to be improvement in terms of revenue so that we are able to restore the sustainability of this municipality. There also needs to be strong governance so that we are able to close any leakage in the system. But also what is critical, Chair, is that the community must also buy in and trust this process, because if the community buys into the process, it will change the payment culture, which will also contribute towards the sustainability of the municipality. But also critically important, Chair, is that we need to capacitate and ensure that municipalities are fully capacitated so that after all these interventions that we are doing, they are able to sustain all these reforms that we are implementing post the FRP. And I think also what will be critical, Chair, is that the oversight by us, Provincial Treasury, as well as the legislature and other departments is also critical to make sure that there is also accountability in the system. So I think if we collaborate and work together, Chair, we should be able to address the challenges that the municipalities are currently facing from governance, finances, as well as service delivery. Thank you very much, Chair, and also to appreciate the support of our partners, as I indicated, local government, SALGA, COGTA, National COGTA, as well as the province and the legislature. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation. I think it was pretty comprehensive and has provided the committee with a very broad view of the extent of the work that needs to be undertaken. I think what to me, before I hand over to members of the committee for any questions that they may have, to me what has been most enlightening is to understand in a way the comparisons between the three municipalities and the extent to which there are, call it, overlaps in the number of issues that are being dealt with, and also to the extent that there are some differences as well. But what I think is important is the fact that is the extent of collaboration that is needed, and hopefully with the municipalities that have been present today, that they've also been able then to perhaps understand a little bit deeper on the various aspects that require attention, and that a very important aspect of collaboration has been mentioned. Yes, so thank you very much for those presentations. That certainly see we've been going for about an hour and a half now, so that has certainly been quite a lengthy presentation and detailed as well. So thank you to all of the departments involved and the work that you're continuing to do. So over to you, committee, for any questions that you may have. Maybe we can try and do this in 2 rounds of questions. So I think looking for hands on the first round. Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the colleagues from DLG and Treasury for the presentation. Chair, my question is related to the Canaland FRP and the report that was ATC'd and sent to us as well. I just want to ask on the overall progression and the phase transition. What we've heard and seen in the presentation, that there's quite a low proportion of the FRP action items that's been finalized across all 4 of the pillars. My question then would be, what is the sort of concrete plan to address the vast majority of the activities that still remain in terms of moving the municipality to the next phase? And then on financial management and cash flow sustainability, what alarms me is the report highlights a severe risk that Canaland may not qualify for the write-off of these Eskom debt due to missing key conditions. So what are the immediate actions being taken there? And perhaps that's where the municipal manager could also answer. And then on employee-related costs, the report indicates that that's sitting at a staggering 49% of the operational budget, and it's heavily driven, as we've heard, by overtime and standby thresholds, having exceeded sort of across all departments, including, quite alarmingly, non-essential political support staff. My question to the municipality would be, how is management enforcing strict pre-approval controls, and what's the timeline for the external payroll audit being executed by Provincial Treasury? And then I also wanted to ask, Chair, if I can just go to a third question. Pillar 4 of the FRP around institutional capacity and HR strategies, around staffing and qualification, it states there that Canaland currently lacks an approved HR strategy and there are notable competency deficits. So my question then would be, what is the status of the verification and vetting processes for all staff qualifications, and what steps are being taken against officials who misrepresented their minimum requirements and are tied to irregular appointments? I'll leave it there for now, Chair.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Honourable Bosman, and I think that's quite a comprehensive question. So we look forward to those responses. Then move to Honourable Windvogel.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Chair, mine is on the Kanaland municipality. There was, in the presentation, there was a serious allegation of possible fraud and financial misconduct in the municipality. And for me, any loss of public funds has a direct and a negative impact on service delivery to the poor and the working class communities. And Kanaland municipality is already under financial strain. And further losses will obviously deepen the crisis. So I want to understand from the team, can you give us the current status and scope of the investigation? And secondly, in which departments is it happening? Then, Chair, on the issue of Theewaterskloof, you actually, or the presenter mentioned about grants that are not spent. I really want to understand what was the reason from the municipality side. Was it poor planning, supply chain delays, or what was the reason that they didn't spend the grants? Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Member Windvogel. Then move to Honourable Nkondlo.
No, thank you, Chair, and good morning to the team that is on the meeting. I'm sure that was one of the longest presentation, almost an hour and a half. Understandably so, we had to deal with about 3 municipalities. Maybe let me just start with Treasury. And understand a couple of things. Perhaps Salga can also chip in where necessary. I think on the conclusion, I think the presenter mentioned a community buy-in that is required, and it makes sense with what he says, so that those households, and I'm sure businesses, can also understand the importance of paying rates, especially where there's evidence that services are being provided properly and there's a billing system that is able to log in such, factually. That rates collection can improve. Now, the question for me is, how are these community stakeholders included in the FRP processes, including the support provided to the municipalities by local government? Can you explain to us how do you engage with communities, businesses, and others, that from which the municipalities collect these rates as an important aspect of this recovery of the municipalities? The second point for me, Chair, I'm interested to understand is that how does the 2 processes run by Treasury and by Department of Local Government interface? As we were listening to the last part of the presentation of the Section 154s, led by a local government, which must be implemented by the municipalities. So what is the interface of the 2? Because if I understand correctly, this process of the Section 154 becomes a function of a concluded FRP by the municipality, but that particular process itself must still go to the municipal council for it to approve. So please just explain to me that particular interface as I think you were explaining this. And I would want to understand from the slide, I think the earlier slide that also even give us, I think the slide on the overview of the status of the FRPs. One sees, the variation from Beaufort West, Canaland to TWK from the decision of EXCO to the actual implementation. There is a process lag of more than 6 months, to the actual implementation. If we consider this with TWK's November, almost a year, both in Canaland, to the actual implementation of the FRP. Now, I'm interested to understand, especially if one links this to the slide, I think slide 8, that was giving just the sort of minimum, or I'm assuming it's minimum, if it's not maximum, of the periods, of the rescue, stabilization to sustainability, because one is actually very concerned with the fact that we still be dealing with a Beaufort West that was in the FRP in 2021. 5 years later, we have not necessarily arrived at a sustainability phase of this particular municipality. We've got Canaland since 2023, and 3 years later, we are also still at rescue phase. So please explain this to me, because then it's going to be important for us with municipalities that are here to understand these particular problems. Because whilst I hear, and I'm actually listening carefully with all the officials that are presenting, the emphasis, and I think also the minister made it, that at the end, it is the responsibility of the municipality. Whilst we accept that, there is particular obligations of the municipalities themselves by legal prescripts, including the MFMA, to not bring themselves into this particular situation. So it's a very tricky situation where we're talking here, we're spending time, to engage on these particular processes, but then things, when they are slowed down, we are then saying it is the responsibility of the municipality, and correctly, as it's stated, both in the Constitution and in the MFMA, but then who gets to be accountable when things are not necessarily moving from the rescue until sustainability? Because surely service delivery is impacted, and also the financial stability of the municipality itself. So maybe help me understand those for now before I can actually get into the actual details of things. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Member Nkondlo. I'm just looking to see if there are any further hands. I see Honourable Pietrus. I think we'll take your question and then we'll hand over to the department or the departments to respond. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, after the presentation, specifically about the one of Beaufort West, there was a lot of mentioning about the reasons for the non-spending of the capital funding. And one of the reasons was because there was no municipal manager. For me, the municipal manager, the fact that there's no municipal manager can't be the reason for not spending and putting the municipality in a more negative position. Don't they have a acting municipal manager?
Yeah, is that the completion of your question there, Member?
Yes, Chair, I will follow up later on it.
Okay, thank you. I think we can then just hand over to Minister and the team there.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I'll start with some of the matters that fall with us. But I'm also going to ask the team, once we get to the respective municipalities, we can then start maybe with answers for Beaufort, the Mayor, MM, and then Stephen was reporting earlier on Beaufort, so Stephen. And then I'll go to Kanaland, Mayor, MM, and Isaac in the respective items. And then I'll go to Theewaterskloof in terms of Mayor, MM, and Kay from our side, and also Sandra, where we deal with the DLG items as well. I just want to specifically mention on the Kanaland and Theewaterskloof FRPs. The Kanaland and Theewaterskloof FRPs only became official or legal and adopted at the end of 2025. This is why this is only the first report. So when we table the section 147 reports, we table them to Provincial Parliament. So the reason you will find that this is their first reports is because the FRPs was adopted and instituted at the end of 2025. And I'll just also ask Stephen and Victor to just come in regarding those timelines as to what happened previously in some of the municipalities. But some of the items I just wanted to deal with is that culture of accountability and leadership in all the municipalities in these FRPs are very, very important. As much as legally we submit and table these reports once a quarter to Parliament, to National Treasury, SALGA, and so forth, nothing prevents a municipality from doing regular report backs at their council, regular report backs to their communities as regularly as they choose to. Nothing prevents that. And we actually encourage that municipalities do regular report backs so that people are aware of where in implementation they are. Because when it comes to implementation, we have to be disciplined. We have to be disciplined in accountability, in implementation, and in culture. So that is very, very important. On Kanaland specifically, I'll just deal with some of the high-level items. We were asked also on where we are in respect to some of the activities. On the reporting, we'll see, for example, that services at the time of the report was at 0, financial was at 4%, institutional was at 2%, but you'll see governance was at 27%. And it's really important when you start out with the financial recovery plan, governance and doing the basics right is so important. So I'll ask that the Mayor, MM, and Isaac also just give feedback on the questions that were asked there. And Isaac also, if you can just give that feedback on the timeline of the reporting specifically, because I do know that there were times when officials weren't either available or where reporting was difficult, given the follow-up things that were spoken about also in terms of the ability to report and capacity to report. On the ESCOM in the municipality of Kanaland, definitely, that is correct. The member Bosman spoke about the second tranche. And Isaac did mention it previously that they missed some of the conditions, but I'll ask that the Kanaland team as well from our side also just give feedback on that. On the employee-related matters, I'm aware that, and this will be after the reporting period, but it is mentioned in the current report. So in the current report, you will see that it speaks about that payroll audits need to commence. I am aware that the payroll audit has commenced in Kanaland, including the verification and skills audit. And I'll just also ask that both the Kanaland and Provincial Treasury team just come in there, especially also on the amount of people that we found were temporary compared to permanent, as well as the findings that what we found in terms of initial, in terms of qualifications in the municipality. I'm aware of the organizational structure that needs to be reviewed. Isaac did mention that the Cash Flow Committee made the resolution that overtime must be cancelled and only strict overtime pre-approvals will be done and needs to be compliant with the thresholds. And that is Isaac and the can maybe go into detail on that as well, including the member asked about the HR strategy. So that needs to also be in line with the FRP. So if we can just get feedback on that. On the revenue, also I know that the smart meter program, I know National Treasury is not in the meeting, but if there is anything on National Treasury matters that we need to liaise with them about on questions, then if we can just make sure that we get those to National Treasury. But I do know that since this particular report, the smart meter program has already helped us increase the revenue in Kanaland by 4%. It is not enough. We need to make sure that that we complete the implementation of that program, and also that the system that is being implemented is completed so that we're able to measure and monitor the implementation there. And there were some questions on consequence management, also if the Kanaland and PT teams can come in there. On the fraud and financial misconduct, definitely Isaac and the as well, therefore must definitely come in there, as well as Theewaterskloof, the grants, Mayor, and K. On the public participation, Stephen, if you can just maybe outline how this public participation process is engaged before an FRP is put together. And then obviously we also thank National Treasury there for their assistance. On the processes and interface, definitely Stephen and Sandra, especially because DLG helps us quite extensively on the service delivery pillar. I know, for example, in Kanaland, off the top of my head, that DLG is assisting us in Carletsdorp on the deep borehole project. It's about 2 million rand, I think, and the Ladysmith project also on water. The borehole refurbishments is approximately 3 million. And I don't have the details off the top of my head on the waste matter, but I do know there was a section on waste in Kanaland that DLG did report on in the reporting. Thank you, sorry. And then I think the last one was just also on the accountability. The municipality does remain responsible for implementation. And I'll just ask Stephen and Sandra just to come in here, similar to the interface between 154s and 139s, also speak about accountability as well and the process. And then member Beatrice asked us about the capital funding in, I think it was Beaufort. Yes, I think it was Beaufort and the acting and how that interface. So I'll just also ask the team just to come in there, but also I'll just also ask the mayor of Beaufort to also assist. So what I'll do, Chair, is I'll start with Beaufort West. I'll start alphabetically. I'll first hand over to the mayor and where relevant in terms of those items, and then I'll ask Stephen, and then I'll move to Kanaland, and then I'll move to Theewaterskloof, and the officials of the respective municipalities are online, and then I'll end off with DLG. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Yeah, okay. Good day, MEC and everyone on the panel. With regard to the current, the acting position that's currently we are having the acting here, who's really leading us in steering the boat. You are aware that we had advertised this position twice, and yet at two separate occasions, that the specific occasions, we have been unsuccessful in attracting a suitable candidate for that appointment. And also, due to the limited duration of the employment contract, that's less than 2 years, I think it negatively impacts the attractiveness of the position for candidates. But then also our current financial position, it may also contribute to the difficulty that we experience in attracting somebody that's suitable or somebody that qualifies and this experience. So yet we are looking now, we are looking at the remaining period, and I think that only if we consider that what burden it will place financially on us, if we proceed now with the third recruitment process, we should look into it that we do place someone here for the remaining period of time, but yet that we, for the next term, then that the position be re-advertised.
Thank you, Mayor. If you want, we can move on to the acting MM for the questions. Otherwise, I'll move on to Stephen so long while you're on mute. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you so much.
How could the consistency of the appointment of municipal manager impact on the CAPEX spending? Now, in essence, Minister, you know, and all our colleagues on the platform knows, if one of the incumbents as directors were always used as an actor. So what you do now, you're limiting the functionality of the BAC, and the BAC appoints contractors and progress of work. Now, every time you use one of the directors to act, you limit. Then you are dependent on the district municipality to always second a person, and on their side, they're always not having the human resources rightly available for us. So that is why we are saying that negatively impacts on the spending pattern. As Stephen rightly said, in the beginning of the financial year, and since I came to act in Beaufort West, it was relatively low. It started at 17%. So what we said to him, and we gave them the assurance that all our capital projects will be implemented, and so we did. And with my presence, all projects was initiated, and that is a proof that I can give to you, and the assurance that I give to you that all capital projects then immediately started. So we reported back the last two times that we said that it will escalate, and I think we're currently standing at about 70%, if I'm not mistaken, Director Zuko? 75%. So to date, as the director now meaningfully said, we're at the point of 75. So just to show you about consistent leadership, and once we have that in place at Beaufort West, and we must make sure then that we can easily move from the one phase to the next phase, stabilization phase, by having a person that manages governance. Because governance is where our critical issues lies, because what is important also, if you look at the different pillars and the composition of each indicator in the pillar, it's management. It is nothing else. That will give you the assurance that we can easily move Beaufort West to the next stabilization phase. So that's the one part. The other part that I think one of the speakers on the platform referred to, how do you incorporate as part of governance your policy framework? So we have introduced, since I've been here, there's a couple of policies that was approved by council. So again, giving the assurance to the community that we are leading and toning from the top. So that was by bringing transformative leadership through policy directive. So that is what we have put in place. Then another question on the platform was, how do you take your community with us? So as governor of the day, We then said we devised to our IDP, Minister, we used our IDP as the communication platform. We specifically had a slide on the FRP. So we spoke to our community. We changed our change management in terms of internal structures on each and every agenda of each director. We have placed FRP as part of the communication tool. So this means we have internally digest and making sure that everyone is taking with us as leadership. So FRP is no longer a standalone function of finance services or the CFO, but it has become an institutional identity where we're saying, how can we improve our governance toning from the top? So one of the things that the mayor immediately instituted was to say, look, if you want to see the world, you use Google. We're not traveling. So the mayor take the lead and said, wherever there is a Salga or whatever conference, we will share that platform and that meeting from Beaufort West on a screen. So you will not see us physically, you will feel us in your boardrooms, but we will not be traveling. So that is internal restructuring of our business models. Other things was that we are looking at, Minister, is the issue of communication, your issue of employment cost. We have made our skills audit, and our skill audit is there, it's guiding us. And as much as we are trying to eliminate the devils of the past, we're still sitting with those and we are phasing them into the institution in the sense that, and Stephen knows what I'm talking about, Minister, that we're phasing in without incurring more employment cost. So what is critical to Beaufort West at this point in time today is to have 2 critical vacancies being filled, or 3, let me say 3, the municipal manager, which we now know, even if we advertise the position, we won't find candidates that will be employing or will apply for the next 5 months. People are looking for stability and they look for job security. So the mayor said, we are going to go to the minister to ask him to nominate or second somebody for stability in this organization. That letter will be furnished today to the minister. The mayor just signed it. Mayor signed it, eh? Who signed it? So that is what we need. Then the other 2 important vacancies that is paramount to us is the supply chain manager. That is the asset. That is a strategic position that we must fill as soon as possible. Now, I can give you, Minister, the assurance that post has been advertised. I think the due date is on, the closing date is on the 29th of this month. Then we will be doing the recruitment and selection. That will also be a key game changer in driving your and expediting your process. I must say that the current asset that we have is no longer a liability for us. He's an asset, and he qualifies. So that and not to give him big head to say, look, you're an asset. You're still a candidate to be participating in a process, but we also have the IDP position that is important for us, another strategic position, and that is talking to the community. So in essence, Minister, I think I'm addressing to what has been thrown to Beaufort West at this point in time in terms of your questioning. So the IDP position is also closing, the closing date is also the 29th. And if you look in terms of closing the gap in governance and leadership, it is where I think our biggest gap currently is consistency in management and making sure that the directors perform their duties. And one of the other important things was the separation of powers. I had a specific engagement with the mayor and the maker that we're serving a town, not of 2 halves, we're serving our community equitably the same, making sure that water is running, the electricity is working, refuge is removed, and we're striving to doing that thing. I think one of the other game changers was the acceptance of our tariff structure by NERSA 8.5%. That's another good story to tell. So Beaufort West has a lot of good stories to tell. We've been through the storm the last few weeks, and we could have, with the current assets that we have amicably dealt with that particular storm And I'm saying the resources, the skills are here, not necessarily all the resources, but all we need here is consistency and leadership. And with the government under the leadership of the current mayor, we are stable. And I think we just need administrative leadership, Minister. I can conclude on that one. And Stephen can deal with all the other issues. So thank you very much, Minister, and everyone, HOD on the platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen. On Beaufort, before I just move over to Kanaland.
Thanks, Minister. I think the acting MM has very ably dealt with much of it. Just to build on what he was saying, I think he's very ably explained the role of a municipal manager in ensuring that capital is fully spent, and why that was part of the breakdown there. That it all comes down to good management, and I think that's in large part also responds to the question about how long the FRPs have taken, particularly in Beaufort West. I mean, I think members must bear in mind that what a financial recovery plan is it's a plan from National Treasury that says, if you do all of these things as they're written in the plan, on the timelines written in the plan, then you will get out of your current situation in, depending on the plan, 3 to 5 years. But obviously these plans are being implemented in municipalities that have gotten into financial crisis because of a whole lot of broken things. So it's very difficult for them to fully implement everything on time. And it takes it takes rebuilding good management in the municipality. So often that, unfortunately, the reality, as we're discovering, as we assist each of these municipalities, we discover that in some of them it takes a lot longer than one would have hoped for in terms of the plan. On Honourable Nkondlo's question about the community buy-in and the public participation, I think to start from the legislation here, it's quite striking when you look at Chapter 13 of the MFMA that these financial recovery plans are highly technical in that in the way that they're described and the requirements around the intervention. There's only one point at which public consultation is required in the MFMA, which is that a draft of the financial recovery plan must be published for public comment. And I think in implementing these plans, we've always felt as the Western Cape Provincial Treasury that we want to do more public participation than what is required in the MFMA. For all of the reasons that we've discussed, particularly about the need to build the public buy-in. And so we've always, in addition to just publishing for public comments, we've partnered with the National Treasury guys who are writing the plans to hold public meetings in those municipalities as part of the consultation process, so that there's an opportunity for oral inputs as well and a presentation to the community. In these two most recent FRPs, in Kanaland and in Theewaterskloof, we've also held presentations of the finalized plan, public meetings on those, and then one of the things that came through very strongly in both of those meetings was the community members saying, don't forget about us. Please keep communicating back to us what the progress is. And so the publication of the plans on the Provincial Treasury website, which again is not a legal requirement, is meant to act as part of that to enable the public to see what is happening, where there are delays, etc., and give a kind of an honest accounting. I don't think, what also came through very clearly in those public engagements, the public doesn't necessarily expect a miracle or an instant turnaround, but they want to know that we're being honest about assessing how the municipalities are doing, and I hope that that's what these reports are doing. I hope that's covered it. Thanks, Minister.
Thank you. When Sandra comes in later, she can maybe also speak about the testing and equipping borehole funding that DLG is giving to Beaufort West, but we need to acknowledge the unqualified audit that they got. It's not everything sunshine and roses on the ground. We acknowledge that, but we are seeing progress in some of these areas. And as the acting MM has said, and the mayor has said, we need to improve on the other items that were raised in the plan. I'm now going to hand over to Kanaland. I'll do similarly, Mayor, then MM, and then Isaac. Thank you.
Die MM gaan ons die hele proses vat.
Geen probleem, baie dankie.
Thank you, Chairperson and the Minister, as well as the Mayor. I think in response, we do have also the CFO with us in the room, who will be dealing with the issues that relates to the cash flow and the ESCOM debt relief program. But in dealing with the first question of our performance date of 30%, there are four, in response to that, in the context, there are four themes that becomes relevant in that context. Because at the initial implementation, the first 3 months of the implementation of the FRP, we started to realize that there was inherent institutional constraint in Canaland. Also the systemic challenges that has led to the organization being in a state of decline. They are so severe that it took time for those systems to effectively collapse, and to rebuild them, it will take, I believe that a significant effort and a certain level of commitment. And also the other theme is about the institutionalizing the FRP, which we'll talk to when we talk about some of the governance documents and the policy proposals that we have workshopped with council and tabled for adoption. And all of those three areas, they are underpinned by a cultural shift that is required in Ghana, because it will have taken a particular culture to get to a point where the organization has collapsed. So to move to a culture of accountability and governance, that's what we assist with in the organization. So specific to the issue of the institutional constraint, I think your colleagues at the oversight meeting, we discussed this at various committees. The challenge that we have diagnosed during the first 3 months of implementation, when we had a challenge of meeting the targets, we quickly did the skills assessment, the skills profile of the organization. And we came to a conclusion that the organization in its current form, without even the FRP, is not poised to meet its own its constitutional obligation in terms of Section 154. And looking at the FRP, because the assumption of the FRP, looking at the activities, which are about 249 activities which are intended to be implemented in-house, and you look at the staff complement of 62%, which are below NQF3 level, automatically it tells us that this organization, Kanaland, will not be able to, it will have a difficulty to meet the timelines and the targets of the FRP. Hence, now probably we'll talk about it at a later stage. Section 154 becomes then relevant to support the FRP implementation, as discussed with Dr. Shaheen. Because if we are not going to address this, and I think in addressing this thing, and we're much thankful to Provincial Treasury responding to this challenge, as I said, when we raised it, with the deployment of the MFIP advisor, also with the responsibility to assist us in reporting. But also we are starting with that process now. And obviously, once we are engaged with the DLG team, we're supposed to have met just before the disaster that happened in the province to have a sharp focus on the 154, because there the expectation is that the constitutional provision provides that when a response, it needs to be supported in other resources, which we are looking at how do you then support a municipality like this one? Because that institutional constraint will always be a challenge in seeing the municipality turn around in the implementation of the municipality of the FRP. So that's the plan that we are having now to see if we strengthen the organization in terms of the pillars and some of those activities, we might see an improvement in the 30% performance at this point. So when we come to the second point of the employee-related cost, and obviously the corporate services director might have a comment in that area. And obviously the minister has touched on it. Now we have as part of institutionalizing the FRP, we have a policy specific that addresses the overtime and standby, because currently it's our high cost driver when it comes to employee-related cost, which is being workshopped now with council and to be tabled before council. We're having council next week. That policy will be tabled before council, coupled with the cost containment policy that has been tabled, with the intention that all of those policies, once there is a culture shift in implementing those policies, then we should be able to see a significant improvement in reducing those cost drivers when it comes to employee-related costs. As it relates to the work that has been done through the service provider appointed by Provincial Treasury on the employee-related cost and HR and qualifications audit and that area, I think what the Provincial Treasury's view, based on the preliminary assessment now and the data inconsistencies that we have picked up and analyzed, they have made a conclusion that the inconsistencies and the duplications they are picking up, they may have a red flag of the possible fraud in that particular area. So to answer to the honorable member about whether an investigation and the outcomes of the investigation has not started yet, because there's not been established the whether there is fraud and corruption. But there's a red flag when one identify the duplications that they have picked up. They could easily mean that there's a data integrity, and or possibly indeed once it has been established and the consultants have worked thoroughly on that data, they may find indeed that the possibility of those have been established, and inherently one would have that then the investigations then will ensue. And obviously, once that is done, the outcomes of that will be then implemented, and we'll see through, and it will be reported, and obviously, we'll see the outcomes of that. I think I will hand over to the CFO to talk about the issues that relate to the cash flow as well as the ESCOM debit. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Good morning, Minister. Good morning, members of the organization, the HOD and the colleagues. Thank you. I think when we look at the FRP, there are four key activities that need to take place to assist the municipality in terms of improving on revenue collection or enhancement of revenue, which is data cleansing, amongst other, appointment of debt collectors, and also to ensure that accuracy in terms of our billing. Now, I think often we get a feedback from Provincial Treasury in terms of the integrity of our data stream, which goes back to the issue of our financial system, as Mr. T was presenting, indicating that the municipality is currently using two softwares, which is Classic as well as the web-based from Samras, which there's issue of the delays in terms of the reporting. but only also affected the integrity of information reported there. And we also appreciate the assistance by Provincial Treasury to appoint a service provider to assist to ensure the accuracy of our, or maybe rather to say to comply in terms of M-score. The reason I'm indicating this is that for ability of the municipality to provide accurate billing, it has to start with a data cleansing. With the financial pressure that the municipality is expressing, we couldn't finalize the process of data cleansing. We are still in the process of ensuring that our data is accurate, and also in the process of updating the information of our consumers. That was the main challenge amongst other issues. And again, the issue of non-payment of ESCOM or low collection rate, I think it should be understood in the broader context of historical structure and operational issues that accumulated over several years. And when you look back during the 23-24 financial year, the municipality adopted an unfunded budget with a deficit of 102, of which we other service provider, they do charge interest with regard to that. And now when you look at the collection rate to date, accumulative as at the 30th of April, the collection rate is standing at 82%. Now, when you look at the collection rate in other areas, it will suggest that it means there are no major challenges facing the municipality, especially that you are able to collect 82%. But in Kanaland, it is a different perspective in the sense that amongst other issues, one, which we are also we have also addressed during the 2026-27 budget processes. Number one, the property rates. The municipality valuation role was materially undervalued over the past 5 years, which we have appointed the service provider. We have provide a draft evaluation, which will be implemented from the 1st of July. When we look at the projection there, it is estimated that the municipality has been underbilling with close to 24 million annually. You can do the calculations there. If we were to base the collection rate of 75%, then the municipality would have suffered at least 75 million from that. So that is one of the main contributing factors in terms of the low collection rate or low revenue, which we have addressed in terms of the current year and for the next year budget processes. The other issue, it was around the water tariff. We've been implementing a flat tariff. We have learned from the best performing municipalities that they are implementing the stepped tariff, which we have revised our tariffs to ensure that our tariffs are aligned and we'll be able to render that service not at a loss. The other important reforms is on electricity. We appreciate the intervention by Department of Local Government by appointing a service provider to assist the municipality and by appointing a consultant to develop a cost of supply study. We've been rendering the service of electricity at loss, which will now be able to implement a cost-reflective tariffs. So those three reforms, when implemented, will then start to realize a significant improvement that. So hence I was saying, based on 82%, it will suggest the municipality should be financially sound, but it is the other way around because our tariff were not cost-reflective. Hence, this process for preparation of the 26-27 financial year will be able to overcome that challenge. The other issue which also contributing, as of the 30th of April, our debtors book was standing at 203 million, of which 2 areas which are serviced by ESCOM constitute about 51%. In terms of monetary value, we're talking about 105%. The municipality is unable to implement credit control in terms of the disconnection because those areas are supplied by ESCOM. We had engagement with ESCOM in terms of assisting the municipality to implement credit control on behalf of the municipality, which they indicated the option is not available since the areas are ESCOM area supplied areas, which also it's a setback in terms of implementation of credit control and also a collection in terms of the collection ability. Now, with the smart meter, the installation of smart meter, we have started to see improvement in terms of the electricity sales. The project is almost above 90%, and we're hoping that a few areas that we have not installed will be finalized, which will assist in terms of improving the revenue thereof. And the other interventions that we'll be looking at maybe through this the various platform. When we look at other areas, for example, like ZOA, which in terms of our processes, we are intending to declare about 90% indigent, because when you look at the employment stats there, most of the households are unemployed. It's about 83 million that is owed. 96 million is owed by ZOA, which the recoverability level is unlikely possible. Which in terms of the processes, hopefully will then inform the process of looking at increasing the equitable share once we have finalized the necessary processes, and maybe through provincial treasury and various platform will then advocate for the municipality in that regard. So the unemployment rate in those areas actually simply is impacting negative towards revenue collection in terms of that. So now with this intervention that one has mentioned, that we're going to start to see the revenue increasing, even if we were to collect 100%, considering that the municipality adopted unfunded budget coming far from 23-24, and we're forever accumulating that. Those challenges, as indicated, have a burden in terms of increasing the revenue on the municipality. So the other intervention that we are looking at, which will also assist the water loss, distribution loss, is also impacting negative in terms of revenue. So we are looking also to a replacement of water meters, replacement of water meters. When you look at our loss, it's about 30%, which we need to. We've got a challenge of aging infrastructure where we need to replace those. So now, those interventions will definitely assist in terms of improving. I think it was important one to give a background to indicate that when 100%, you will not be able to address the unfunded budget to its entirety. In terms of our NTREF, it is estimated that the municipality will move out of the unfunded position on the last year of the MTREF, based on the intervention, the reforms that we're introducing. So in the beginning of last month, the municipality engaged in terms of the strategic engagement session, whereby 19 resolutions were taken, which among others, it's an issue to look at unfunded and underfunded mandate, which impacting negative towards our availability, affect on availability of resources to meet our financial obligation. We are administering the issue of housing on behalf of Department of Human Settlement. When you look at the costs involved vis-a-vis the grant that we are receiving, the cost for administering that it's more than what we are receiving from the department. Not only that, but also with the Department of Transport, the agency fee that we are receiving vis-a-vis the administration cost there, it's also impacting in terms of the availability of financial resources to look at other pricing or priority areas. So it is included on those resolutions that need to be actioned before the end of this financial year. The issue of organizational structure was also one of the main issues that we need also to look at, so that we are able to prioritize key areas like your revenue, to ensure that all the critical positions are filled, so that we are able to maximize the revenue. There's also one of the resolution which is important, which deals with the value chain, revenue value chain, so that we assist the employees to move away from that thinking that revenue collection is for sole responsibility of finance, but the other activities that are happening under building control, that are happening under planning and development, they do impact negative if we are operating inside. So we did take a resolution though, which need to be action so that together collectively we are able to ensure that we enhance the revenue. With regard to the debt collection, we also appointed the debt collectors, which we have also amended their contract, but prior to the implementation, we have then requested the provincial department for the review, for their input, to ensure that when we implement, it doesn't impact in terms of the regular appointment again. So we're still waiting for that. Then we'll be able, because that once, if the process are found to be in line with the regulation, it will then assist, especially in the ESCOM areas where we are unable to collect. Because as I've indicated, our data books forever increasing, and those two areas of ESCOM, they constitute more than 51% of our data book of 203. So basically, all this intervention will assist in terms of ensuring that we pay ESCOM. What is also critically important in terms of the cost containment, implementation of cost containment, I think management and political leadership, when we work together, put our minds together, will be able to ensure we prioritize. Because when you look at our performance with ESCOM, we have not been fully paying our bill monthly is around 5 million, 6 million. But when you look at in terms of our past performance, we've been paying 3 million, 2.5. For April, we have not processed any payment. In May, we did, even though it's not sufficient. So we have not been able to meet it to process the full invoice for the month. Once we implement all these reforms and we implement and stick to cost containment that we have reviewed, we should be able to get out of the first phase, and we should be in the position to meet our financial obligations. With those interventions, I think we are in the right track, but we need to action and adhere, and then the issue of accountability need to take place in areas where we are not adhering to the resolutions taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. But Isaac, please keep it short. I didn't want to interrupt the MM because I know Kanaland is at the first reporting phase, so there is quite a number of things to respond to, so that we can just get to Theewaterskloof, please.
No, I think Chair, the CFO covered the bulk of it. The only thing that maybe that was not covered was on the employee related. I think MM covered that as well. But the resolution of cash flow committee, I think the CFO spoke to that as well. I think so. It's fine, Chair, on our side. Thank you, MC.
Isaac, I think the only item that was still outstanding was the temporary workers versus permanent employees. So between the MM and yourself, maybe you can submit that to the committee, please.
All right, no, it's fine. Thanks. We'll do that.
Okay, perfect. Then we can just move on now. Theewaterskloof, Meyer, MM, and then K, and then DLG. Thank you.
Morning, Minister, Chair, all honorable members. I will hand over to the MM to speak about the unspent grants, conditional grants. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister. All protocol observed. I'm the acting municipal manager of Theewaterskloof Municipality, Mr. GW Marnus. There was a question raised by Honorable Vin Vokel regarding failure or non-spending of grant funding. Yes, there's 2 grant fundings we've received, and the reason for the delay, we had a bid adjudication meeting that was held on 10 November 2025. That was unlawful in terms of how it was constituted and in terms of the outcome and what transpired. We follow the protocol because 2 wrongs does not justify a right. A full report in this regard was submitted to the province, and province gave us guidance in that regard in terms of how we will conduct, in terms of applications for rollovers, and how we will manage that transpired out of that, because grant funding is important for service delivery in the municipality, but that was the risk in terms of that meeting. And that was the question raised by Honorable Vin Vokel. In terms of just an update, I'm not going into a long to cover anything because we currently only on the first phase that is now in front of the Standing Committee. Currently, our municipality, I can assure you, with the leadership, we are really focused on compliance. And there's a nice word the cash flow always use is how Theewaterskloof can save expenditure. And we focus on that one. And we try to be compliant. Just an example of our commitment. Currently, we face a severe experience of the disaster in our area. No water, no electricity, and a lot of issues. But I can proudly say, in Theewaterskloof municipality, we manage it with the assistance of all the stakeholders, neighboring municipalities, farmers, province, the district, and we have no deviations in this regard. And we restore until 99%. We currently, in terms of our assessment. In terms of really truly leadership and commitment from our finance department and all our management team, with the assistance from our council. Yes, we are in depth with Eskom, and we are one of the municipalities in this finance recovery plan that truly committed us with the agreement with Eskom. It was signed off, and that is 19 million plus that we must pay over 22 months to Eskom. If we are truly committed and don't miss one payment, they will write off 15 million of that money, and that's including currently the current account as well as the arrears. We have no overdrafts, but we pay loans still. And how will we fund that loans? That is in terms of our employment costs, that we really cut overtime, standby, anything, and we are honest with the cash flow team when we deal on a weekly basis with them in terms of the terms of reference, and we cooperate with the different pillars we have in this municipality. The municipality also look at our current income in terms of financial income, payments due to the municipality. We are currently on 83%, but we work on the achievable one of 85%. but in terms of our revenue enhancement strategy, that province guide us currently and really assist us. And next week we have a workshop also in that regard. Our achievable plan is 88%. If we reach that, then the municipality will really have good progress. I'm not going to report on the current where the stages we are, but I can assure you, Honorable Minister, that Tewaterskloof municipality, in terms of progress with our pillars, is really far. But the report was now only on terms of the first 2 months, I think. Maybe Mr. Ashworth Riddles can just add something. If you want to add something, our acting CFO. Thank you.
No, thank you, everybody. Thank you, MM and Mayor. I think we covered. I don't want to add any unnecessary information. I think the MM gave a targeted and comprehensive response on the matters that was raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim K. Oh, and as the MM mentioned, Chairperson, it won't be in this report because it was before it happened. In the report, the overdraft came down, I think, from 30 million to 10 million, and then after this reporting period, the overdraft was cancelled, if I remember correctly. But I'm just going to hand over quickly to Kim K before we go to DLG.
Thank you, Minister. I can confirm that is the case in terms of the overdraft. I am also fully covered by the MM. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. If there is anything else for Tewaterskloof, then please, Chair, we will submit that information as you and the committee wish. DLG, Sandra.
Thank you, Minister. Chair, members, just in terms of Member Mkontlu's question, I can just confirm that the two processes definitely interface. I just want to explain it at a practical level. So obviously at a practical level, we'd had a Section 154 in place for all three municipalities previously. If not a 154, then an operational support plan, and you obviously want to ensure that there's continuity with regard to that. Following that, the financial recovery plan came into place, and we just had to halt our 154 process just to ensure that we dovetail with what is on the financial recovery plan. But once you've got the pillars going in terms of the different leads, and you'll hear that we were on the governance institutional capacity as well as the service delivery, we assist with those, then obviously you go down, you drill down, and it is our mandate to deal with these. You drill down to the activity level, and so more activities come out as you start actually implementing. And so I can just, as an example, if you look at the progress that was given, for example, we deal in our monitoring space, we've got very specific indicators dealing with compliance to legislation. And you can see that's why we've got training on the councillor roles and responsibilities, disciplinary processes. Then also, as Isaac has alluded to, we need very specific control systems and processes in place. Therefore, in terms of complaints received, we also then go to the service delivery level. From compliance perspective, you can get the example in the Kannaland space where there were quite a lot of waste directives that we've received. So there was definitely need for waste support. And our colleagues from Environmental Affairs and Development Planning doesn't have a grant that could cover that. So we've assisted with that. And then obviously everything that we do in the municipal space, we link to our provincial policy directives. And one of the priorities that we've got in province at the moment is focusing on provincial water and energy resilience. And therefore we've got geohydrologists in place across province, and we've now developed town-based implementation plans. And this is where some of the drilling of the boreholes come in, because they're very specific issues that need to be addressed with regard to water security as well as resilience. And then you'll also note that we are busy with a draft anti-vandalism strategy at the moment, because this is definitely a challenge that has come out across all our municipalities. So thank you for that.
And I think, Sandra, maybe we must just submit to the committee also the water and the waste and so on projects that we're assisting the respective municipalities on currently in this financial year, because the reports only cover the reporting period, not the not the new financial year items.
Will do, Minister.
Thank you so much, Chair. Back to you. If there is obviously further information that is needed, we are here to assist and answer. 3 municipalities is quite a lot for one session, I acknowledge that. But we hope that the written reports that were tabled also assist in that regard, but we will work with yourselves as well as if we need extra information from DLG or National Treasury or even SALGA and the municipalities. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Minister, and for your team and for the municipalities. Certainly, it has been quite a big plateful that we've been dealing with today. And I think as committee will notice, we are running out of time now. We've got a 12 o'clock slot, and I know the number of committee members have other appointments from 12 o'clock onwards. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask for members to phrase their questions and to try and be as concise and precise, both concise and precise in their questioning, which we will then, for reply by Provincial Treasury, as Minister has indicated. And, we'll also just capture that from a procedural office point of view. So I see the hands of Member Mkondlo and then Member Bosman.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm sure this issue of time management and our oversight continues to evade this committee. Because if we're going to deal with 3 committees and we must wait for 30 minutes for response and then we're asked to time our issues, this becomes a problem again. Let me appreciate the responses from the Minister and the team. One question on the timing, as it was explained also by the DDG. I just want to understand whether from Treasury, both with the Constitution and FMMA, or any policy or regulations, isn't there any specific time frame set for financial recovery of municipalities? Because as it was explained, my worry is open-endedness of this particular recovery with all the issues raised by both provincial treasury, local government, and the actual municipality about the complexities of the issues that are derailing the process. So just want to understand that first. My second follow-up, Chair, would be now with Kanaland as an example. Can we get an indication that because we have been told that there are teething problems as it relates to the first phase, which is the rescue phase that needs to be completed, can we get an indication, actually both Kanaland and TWK, by when all what is required to be done within phase 1 would be completed, given that we've got a window as a range of between 3 to 8 months thereof, including in Beaufort West? Can we be told by the acting MM, as this committee, that at least by the end of this year, we would be moving towards concluding and getting into the sustainability phase in Beaufort West that has been on this recovery since 2021. And with that said, can Beaufort West, in terms of its water situation, explain to us what is the situation currently between the reclamation plant as the Triple P, the surface water, together with the boreholes, which then I think in some of the oversights that we have done, also there was challenges of some of the boreholes that had actually not gone down, underground water surface enough to be able, because others were still running dry. What is the situation to date, which also contribute into the water availability to citizens in that area. So that is also one question that I would like to just understand from Beaufort West. Safe to say, thank you for the response from DDG around the issue of the community and the work that has been done. I would appreciate if we could be able to be provided with the community engagement or public participation of that period of the development of the FRP of these 3 municipalities and the subsequent work, because one thing that is important, which was said here, which I'm interested in, is the extent to which the public, particularly as debtors to the municipality, including business, are understanding and playing ball with the municipality around the issues of collection, of debt and paying their rates to the municipalities, because we need them to also assist that aspect, and whether that particular issue in this public engagement is a matter that is being attended to, and what is the response of the community, including the business around these municipalities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Nkondlo. Then we have Chief Whip Bosman.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I was just listening to the response from the municipal manager for Kanaland, and perhaps I should direct my question to the mayor of Kanaland. If the municipal manager claims that a 63% underqualified workforce is paralyzing the financial recovery plan, how do you politically justify tabling a budget where you're dumping 49% of your funds onto employee costs, while simultaneously allowing non-essential political staff in the office of politicians bleed resources through unauthorized overtime? The main underlying question is, why are we funding political perks instead of redirecting those monies into the emergency staff training that is needed? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that, Honourable Bosman. Over to Honourable Stoffel.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to everyone on the platform. Chair, my question is based on maybe Beaufort West and Kanaland. The question I have is that, or my concern I have, Chair, I will couple it with what Member Nkondlo have raised in terms of the time frame of this FRP. I think Kanaland within 2023, they have started with a process with Kanaland. And then the actual implementation of that process in terms towards the FRP was in September 2025. I'm not sure whether they can correct me. And to me, it's quite a concern, because out of that process, we could already determine that this Kanaland at itself, with a high unemployment rate, with all these challenges that has been mentioned, it won't have that potential to get out of this thing. So my question will then go to the question of that specific grant that Treasury have referred to in order to assist these municipalities. Because we can take Kanaland, who have started long time ago with the process, equal that to Teerwaterskloof that was in a worse position of Kanaland. But Teerwaterskloof now is starting to see the sun is shining from somewhere, whilst Kanaland is still in that hole, that where there's no sun, there's no light, there's no everything, nothing for them. And we quite aware about the report that was being given and the failures within that because of these challenges that has been mentioned. So I just want to know from the MEC, at this stage, was there a stage whereby the MEC have reached out to the National Treasury in terms of that specific grant to assist these municipalities? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Stoffel. I'm just looking for any other members possibly for question. I'm not seeing hands at this stage, and I see Minister. So, I don't know if there's anything that could give us a quick answer, or otherwise then you can just wrap up as well. Thank you very much for the presentations today.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the committee members for the questions. We really do appreciate it. I just want to start with the fact that Beaufort West has been in the FRP for a while, and I'll just ask Stephen just to indicate when did they go into the financial recovery plan. But Kannaland and Theewaterskloof financial recovery plan was adopted last year and implemented last year, and that was late 2025, hence the respective reports. Now, I'll also ask Stephen just to explain how the MFMA works in terms of the timelines for recovery plan being completed. But Section 148 of the Act says that the financial recovery plan ends when the crisis is over. So if the municipalities do not follow the targets or the goals, and as was previously indicated, there's almost like 200 goals per municipalities or targets. If these things are not followed, if revenue does not increase, if we do not do cost containment, if we do not deal with overtime and organizational reviews, if we do not deal with consequence management on finances, if we do not deal with the service delivery, the capacity problems, policies that need to be reviewed, if the financial crisis is not over, you will remain in the financial recovery plan. That is how the law works. There's objective criteria that we must step in if there's a financial crisis, and there's a objective criteria that we can only step out once the financial crisis is over. But I'll ask Stephen just to detail what does that mean in terms of the law. As well as Stephen, if you can just also indicate regarding, there was a question regarding the items that need to be followed to move out of the rescue phase for Kannaland and Theewaterskloof. Those are quite a number, I do know. So, but if you can maybe just summarize, and if necessary, we can maybe submit the longer version to the committee as well. If the can please assist us, Beaufort West, the water questions there. Stephen, if we can just definitely Member Nkondlo, we can submit that in terms of the public participation matter, Stephen. If we can please get that to the committee. From Kannaland, there was a question on the temporary workers, costs, overtime, and funding there. If we can just please quickly assist with an answer there. But 100%, we are reviewing all of those items in the municipality. It cannot be that once temporary workers and permanent employees are almost the same. It's not okay. And in terms of overtime, the has indicated they will be doing reviews on those matters. But if you can just give the members some detail on that. On the whether or not a municipality can come out of FRP, Theewaterskloof doing better. I actually want to disagree, Chairperson, with the member. I believe that Kannaland can come out of the FRP. I believe Kannaland can be successful. We must all want Kannaland to be successful, and we must all have discipline in implementation, discipline in terms of accountability, and discipline in terms of culture. And these are important because often a financial crisis only occurs after governance crises. So we need to, that's why the governance issues are so important that we must fix those policies that must get tabled, that must be implemented. We need to continue with that. And I disagree that Kannaland would not be able to come out of FRP. I believe that all 30 municipalities, small or big in our province, are able to be successful, and we must help them, and we must work with one another, the municipality, National Treasury, SALGA, ourselves, DLG, must work with one another to make sure that we help one another get out of these FRPs. And on Theewaterskloof, I've indicated this before for all the respective municipalities, but I'll just quickly deal with Theewaterskloof. While there's improvements, and Kim has indicated some of those improvements, it's not all sunshine and roses in the municipalities with the FRPs, and we must acknowledge that. We must acknowledge that because on service delivery on the ground, people still feel the impact of our financial crisis, and we must be able to acknowledge that and that it is not disappeared. Despite that, we must continue working with the municipalities on the 4 different pillars to make sure that there's improvement in this regard, and as a province. And we also work with National Treasury. I know that they're not here, but if there's anything that we need to raise with them, we will raise it with them. And we must also make sure that we first deal with making sure that the funding that we have within the municipalities are spent effectively and efficiently before we consider other funding, because there are areas for improvement within municipal budgets that we need to work on in improving before we deal with further grants and so on. In terms of things like infrastructure grants specifically, I know, Sandra, you can also assist us here, is if you are not going to spend all of your funding, it is not reasonable for us to run to National Treasury to ask for more money. And I'm going to support National Treasury on that, because we must first spend the money we have before we consider new funding. And this counts for any municipality, not just those under FRP. Spending is important. The for example, from Beaufort earlier, indicated the assurances from the municipality, how we must improve on those spending and how they have improved on the spending. But for all municipalities, under FRP or otherwise, we must spend our money. And once we spend our money, we are able then to say, okay, now that we are getting the basics correct, what are the next steps to make sure that we're really able to go from financial recovery plans and stabilization to growth? Because we can't deal with growth if we're not able to get the basics right. Stephen, I'm first going to hand over to you, and then I'll do Beaufort, Kannaland, Theewaterskloof again in that order. Thank you.
Thanks, Minister. I'll try to be very brief then. I think you've already outlined in answer to Member Nkontlo's question that the MFMA doesn't set a timeline for the conclusion of an FRP. It sets objective criteria, which is that the financial crisis must be over. And Member, I think we share your concern about open-ended FRPs, and we're very keen to get Beaufort West across the line into that final phase of the FRP. And if you look at the conclusion of our quarterly reports, it kind of summarizes what are the things that the municipality needs to do to get over the line. In Beaufort West's case, it's really about the improvement in the liquidity position, and obviously things like improving collection rates, etc., would assist them to achieve that. On the other 2 municipalities moving to the next phase of the FRP, it's a kind of a similar story where it's summarized in the conclusions of the reports. In Theewaterskloof case, we had, bear in mind that the reports that you're looking at here, that we're reporting on, are for the first quarter of implementation of the FRPs. So Theewaterskloof in particular has achieved quite a lot since then. We actually had a meeting with them on Monday, going through what are the outstanding activities still, and how can we get as many of those as possible implemented this month and next month, with the aim of getting them into the next phase of the FRP. Whereas in Kannaland, as we've been quite clear about, there are basic reporting challenges. So they're having a much slower time getting to implement. As the said, they have huge capacity constraints, and we're seeing that, and we're kind of talking about how we take a different approach to supporting them to enable them to comply and implement. So it's a nuanced story in every municipality, and then we'll make sure to submit records of the public participation so that you can see that. I hope I've covered what I needed to. Thanks, Minister.
Thanks. If we can quickly hand over to the for Beaufort, and then I'll go to the rest.
Thank you, Minister, and honourable members for the questions. I think the importance of getting out of the one phase to the other is dependent on your governance structure. I think Stephen has answered that, but the governance structure will then, in terms of consistency, will allow us then to manage all of those things. If we look at the institutional and financial management models and the key indicators there, it deals with managing this institution to get us out of the next phase. Then in terms of the infrastructure, water infrastructure network. Now, Minister, I'm going to do an analogy in terms of Beaufort West is one of the oldest municipalities, over 300 years. And then I'm saying we're driving a Ford vehicle, but we want the output to be similar to that of a Porsche. Now, we currently have about 40 generators or balls that drives those things. And we manage with that 40, the cost benefit analysis in terms of driving that particular process. It is making us, in terms of our consistency, deliver about functionality of 29. Now, the question is always why is 29 functional? And if you look at your cost benefit analysis in terms of vandalism and theft, and then what we then did is to say, look, what is the 80-20 principle that we will apply to ensure that this town is still functional? Because every time we repair a ball, Minister, it happens so that now we're putting a Porsche engine into the Ford. Now I'm re-engineering backwards. By putting the Porsche engine into the Ford, we now have the ability to deliver at a higher rate, but it then comes with a cost of pipes being burst. So we're very cautious in how we manage to protect our old infrastructure, still delivering at the rate that we can. Now, party to that is, Minister, is that we have this coming week, we will approve a policy in the water losses reduction action plan. So we have an action plan and which will determine as to our delivery per households, our delivery per suburbs, and also our output in terms of what we can afford using the old infrastructure that we have, making sure that we still provide water, we still provide access to that basic needs of our communities, but bearing in mind that we're driving an old car with a new body. And that is what I conclude on my analogy, Minister. I think the culture, that is one of the things that we must change in the institution, but also the culture of our community, understanding our ability to deliver. I mean, if you look at, if we need to replace the entire infrastructure, what that infrastructural cost would be. So we're making our citizens aware that this is what we have, this is the car that we drive, and this is the output. But notwithstanding our constitutional obligation to deliver access, and that is what we provide on a daily basis to our people. Yes, it's not always at the time of delivery, because our impact, if you look at Beaufort West, you will see if the electricity is down, your bores don't function. So we have a dependency of infrastructure because we can't get out of that as a result of the old infrastructure, Minister. I think that would explain us, but we are providing that basic access to water. That would explain us our conundrum in which we are. So I think if there's any follow-up question, I would answer that. But this is where we're at, providing the services with the old infrastructure, and we make really means of what we have in terms of providing that service. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, honourable members.
Thank you, I'm going to move on to Kanaland now, but if we can just submit that report to the committee as well once the council has adopted it on the water matters. Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes, so I can move on to Kanaland.
Ek sal die gedeelte antwoord ten opsigte van die politieke kantoor wat een van die aardbare lede van die komitee gevraagd. Je moet onthouden dat ik het die wet geschreven, je krijgt die wet. En dan moet die wet uitvoeren. Die wet is hoger as enige stelsel wat ons. Soos jy gesien het ons die inligting ingesamel. Eers nou gaan die beleid. Eers nou gaan die beleid op die tafel gesit word. In die week gaan die beleid op die tafel gesit word. Voordat kan ek op 'n persoonlike vlak 'n besluit neem, maar die raad neem as 'n kollektief 'n besluit. Ek wil ook vir die lede vra.
Chairperson.
I hear you, Member Mkondo. I think we're getting a response from Kanaland.
Yes, Chair,
So,
but Chair, you know, we do not have an interpreter. So you should intervene from your chair. We don't have an interpreter unless you indicate such.
okay, let us just see whether what we can do there. Okay, thank
Ask
you.
the MM. Ask the MM, Chair. And unless you should have indicated this up front, there's nothing wrong with the MM to speak in Afrikaans. I'm just saying we do not have an interpreter. At least you must indicate that there would be a summary so that we can hear. We are in the meeting so that we can hear.
Yes, okay, we'll try and deal with that now. Thank you. Yes, I think if we could just get a summary of that view there from Kanaland in English, please.
Honorable Chairperson, maybe just quickly, I think the short and long of it is that the mayor is actually saying that there's a policy that's going to go to council in terms of the overtime, and it will specifically deal with the issue of the political stuff. He cannot, in his own, make a decision because council as a collective will need to approve the policy. That's in short what he was saying.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Chair, I'm going to just ask that the MM, because it will be a while before we do the next Section 149 report. So those policies that go to council, if it's adopted, that they can just submit those to the committee as well, just so that, because it is going to be a while before the next report. And then I can go to Theewaterskloof.
Good, good.
Oh, thank you, Chairperson. No, indeed, the honourable MEC and members of the committee. Now, indeed, we will submit those policies as soon as they are adopted next week.
Fine, thank you. Minister, I think you indicated wanting to move to Theewaterskloof then.
Oh, yes. I'm not sure if the MM of Theewaterskloof wants to add anything. I'm looking at my notes. I didn't see something specific for Theewaterskloof, but just so that we can, just in terms of fairness, also give the MM for Theewaterskloof for answering. Thank you.
You can go ahead, Mr. Manus.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and MEC Bartman. The MM is just busy consulting with attorneys, but I think we don't want to dwell too much. It's Wilfred Solomon-Janus, the Director of Community Services. But just on the part of Theewaterskloof, we do not want to regurgitate. But I think what's important is that the municipality made significant improvements and progress. As MEC has said, it's not all sunshine and roses in this municipality. Service delivery is lacking behind in some cases due to our financial pressures that the municipality is currently subjected to. And sorry on that. And that's very much important. Since the commencement and the implementation of our financial recovery plan, now this municipality got off the blocks. We've accelerated our interventions, programs, and initiatives to really make a significant progress to lift this municipality. And I think, Minister, and I think what's important for us at Theewaterskloof, the FRP and the Section 139 has really forced and nudged this municipality to discontinue in its silo approach and fragmented operation and functions. And it really harnessed ourselves to work, to move towards teamwork and in our leadership commitment to drive this municipality, most importantly, to ensure fiscal discipline in this municipality, and also to our effective communication to instill public trust and confidence in the municipality. I know in the run-up to that, there was a lot of negative publicity in the municipality, and our municipality has really driven this FRP to a very much positive communication strategy. Not all depending on FRP, but to show to the residents, service delivery is happening under immense pressure, and also that there are stabilization and discipline in this municipality. And as they say, we are out of the woods, but still in the forest. And I think the message that we as Theewaterskloof made, and I think what you hear today, we were the last municipality that came on board, but we came out of a most dangerous situation where this municipality was due to collapse. The ship was at the brink of sinking. We lifted it up out of that critical situation under very difficult situations, and to have a much more stratified and a forceful approach to drive this organization to a culture of discipline and organizational culture. Like both of the Westies said, we still got they trying to do something with the old car with new body, but I think what our message is from Theewaterskloof, adaptation. We need to adapt to the circumstances and change the strategy. We introduce new change management initiatives, in particular on reforms that we had to quickly implement and change. But it goes about organizational behavior. Everybody must be on board. We all drive towards the same goal and initiative. And I think what we have done is to ensure that there are institutional governance processes in place, and we drive towards fiscal discipline. This is the biggest challenge that I think this municipality had. And Minister, in concluding remarks, is to say that we are working hard, very hard in this municipality to change the direction and to get us out of rescue phase. And I think you repeatedly and through the various discussions and comments has indicated this is a rear view mirror where we were at the last quarter of reporting and where we are at today. We have really made significant approach, and thank you for the commitment and support that is coming from the province and National Treasury. But be committed that this municipality is doing everything we can, and that we can move at the next reporting cycle, that Cabinet and MEC, that you can consider our efforts, and then we can move towards the invocation of Section 148 to get us out of the rescue phase. Thank you. That is.
Thank you so much,
Oh, sorry, I
Chairperson.
was busy speaking to myself.
No, we heard you. We heard you.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Minister.
you. Thank you. Chairperson, back to you.
Thanks very much, Minister, and to the team from Provincial Treasury and from DLG, and to the three municipalities teams for the responses that you've given and the explanations that you have provided to us. I think we all recognize that it is a rather complex process going through a financial recovery plan. But I think at the same token, as Minister indicated and Steve Kenyon has mentioned, there are something like 200 individual items that need to be dealt with. And I think that is what we all appreciate, that in terms of running a successful municipality, there are a huge number of processes that need to be followed through, both on the administration side and also from a governance perspective, to ensure that the work being done by a municipality is is providing that level of services that our citizens deserve and need to be able to operate, and also then to create that environment in which the economy can flourish. So I want to thank you very much, Minister, and the teams from Provincial Treasury and DLG for being with us today, as well as the municipalities, the mayors, the municipal managers, and the members of management. So that, I think, concludes that aspect of it, and you will now be released. I don't know, Minister, if you've got any final closing remarks before we conclude.
Thank you, Chairperson. I don't have any specific concluding remarks. I just want to thank yourself, the committee, the municipality, SALGA, National Treasury, DLG, our sector departments, even at a national level, our sector departments. In terms of what we've seen in these reports, it included leadership instability, institutional capacity and reporting, and the fact that we need stronger implementation discipline. And this all is part of why we see financial deterioration or financial crisis, and I'm generalizing now across the reports. And we are committed to submitting additional information to you where required. And we will continue working to accelerate the implementation of these plans, because it is important for service delivery on the ground. So if you need anything from us, Chairperson, in terms of extra information, we are ready to provide that from department as well as our municipalities. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, and have enjoy the rest of today. So I think, as indicated, departments of Provincial Treasury, DLG, and the municipalities are now released, and then committee members will just remain to wrap up our further matters that we need to do before we conclude our meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, bye.
I think we are now down to the members of the committee. So I think that unfortunately went quite longer than what we'd hoped for. But I think the fact that we were dealing with the reports from these three municipalities was inevitably going to be quite a big ask. I am just looking for guidance on any resolutions and recommendations going forward. And I think I think the one aspect being items that we possibly did not get answered, and where we can perhaps then just make sure that we put through those written requests as soon as possible, as I think as being one way going forward. And then procedural officer just indicated we also just want to deal with our annual activities report before we close off, and then we'll deal with other items at our next meeting. Member Nkondlo.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think at some point as this committee, we may need to call SALGA and National Treasury, perhaps with Provincial Treasury, because what is clear with these three municipalities at this point, as it was said in the meeting, is that governance, and in that governance, it's more political instability that is running this municipality into the financial challenges that they are finding in themselves in. So I think we just need to have that particular conversation with these entities, because I still feel very strongly that the answer that says until the municipality is fully recovered is not satisfactory, as people must wait for 3-5 years because a municipality internally does not take decisions, that it's supposed to take. Who is then supposed to be made responsible? So I think that if it is a question in law, then somehow, as legislators, we must do what is required. Because if there is a financial recovery, surely it must have timeframes so that it puts and it enforces accountability, both of politicians in those municipalities and administrators, including ourselves, or that line of accountability. At this point, communities then are going to be left, into this back and forth. So that's the first issue. The second issue, I am requesting the report that I have requested of the public engagement, but also the report which I did not hear well from the acting MM of Beaufort West regarding the issue, because the analogy of the card that he made, did not answer my questions about where is the state of things in as far as their water sources and its sustainability. If they could be asked to provide that report. Then the last one I would be interested to request, Chair, is the legal advice on the status of the executive mayor, because it seems that we've got this problem of this problem, but also the issue of MMs. I'm also trying to understand this. Perhaps it's a matter that could be answered, whether when there is an acting MM in a municipality, that MM does not necessarily have the legal, authority. That acting, maybe it's a question that maybe we can get answers from colleagues that are in local government. It's something that I wanted to understand, why this issue of an acting MM derail, particular decision making until an MM is employed. If somebody in the committee does have the answer, I would appreciate if they can share with me, even on the side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member Mkondlo. I think, and I'm sure that procedural officer will take notes of that, and that we'll make sure that we try and get all of access to all of that information as soon as possible. Member Stoffel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I just want to support Member Mkondlo in terms of National Treasury, Provincial Treasury must come down so that we can really verify this issue. Chair, we've got a responsibility here towards our communities, towards residents who pay taxpayers' money, who pay services, but they don't get the services because our municipalities is forever under financial recovery plan. And really, it should come to a point whereby we should be clarified on that matter. So I'm fully in support of that proposed resolution of Member Mkondlo. The second one is that we really need, especially within Canaland, whereby political offices staff is getting overtime. It can't be checked. So we really need to get that council resolution or whatever policy is there that they are referring to. We need that doc. And to so far that even the local government committee should also be aware of that. Because that cannot be that's not allowed where political offices is getting standby, is getting overtime allowances. So that one, we need to take a serious resolution around that, to say that policy should really be submitted to the committee and to the MEC's office, to the local government office. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Stoffel. Yes, I'm, hearing both of you members, Mkondlo and Stoffel, in terms of the concerns that you raise about municipalities and the governance of municipalities, and in effect the councils who are not operating in terms of what the spirit of the law was. I think it is, these are very relevant matters. I will also confer with the chair of local government. And, I think as we are aware that there's a review, white paper review on local government is currently out for comment. And I think those comments are due quite shortly in terms of changes to the legislation. And, certainly it is of concern that these recovery plans can in effect be dragged out by the operatives on the ground, being the councils and the administration within those municipalities, just making it extremely difficult to get the whole to get that municipality back on track, and the impact that it then has on the citizens within those municipalities is very worrying. Member Brinkhuis.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Chair, yes, in terms of resolution, I would also like to say that we have a research team at the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, and if that research team can be called in maybe in our next meeting or the following meeting, just to brief us on examples of municipalities, successful municipalities around the country, or even internationally for that matter, which have also experienced such conditions like financial recoveries, and that have come out of those recoveries. So yes, if our research team at the Western Cape can also come to the party and serve us with some research on successful municipalities that have in the past also had financial recoveries conditions and successfully came out of it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much for that. Just looking down to committee, are we in agreement with the proposals that have been made over the last few minutes? I seem to think that there's acceptance for the various resolutions and recommendations that have been made. So thank. I think if we can then, at the procedural officer, you've got noted that down. And I think if there are any additional questions that we want to submit in terms of the presentations that have been given to us, if members can perhaps send those through, let us say by the close of business on Monday, that we can just add that to any requests that we have for written responses. That will probably be good. Hopefully that's all acceptable to everyone. And then procedural officer, perhaps if you can move on to the annual activities report that you felt that we need to get dealt with by today. So that's the committee report for 25 to 26. And we are just going through that page by page on the screen. If there are any issues there that are of concern, please just indicate so. Otherwise, if we can just get approval of that from yourselves as committee members, and then we can come to the end of our meeting.
I propose that we adopt, Chair.
Thank you, Member Bryant, proposing. And if we can get a seconding hand there. Okay, anybody wanting to second that? Colleagues? Okay, there's that Member Mkondo. Thank you very much. So I think that brings us to a conclusion of this meeting, and the meeting is then adjourned. Thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye.